another video. Today we're watching 400 car batteries wired together by styropyro. Oh my god, finally. It's been a while since I've been wanting to watch this video, but it's 2 hours long. That's why I haven't yet, but we're gonna watch it now. And yeah, if you enjoy my reactions, like and subscribe. Come over to Twitch to watch me live, and also make sure to check out styropyro. Let's go, let's go.
This video is sponsored by AnyDesk.
Hey guys, it's Drake Anthony here, and today I am bringing you some of the most extreme science experiments ever done on YouTube. Behind me, I have 400 car batteries wired together. With these batteries, I can pull electrical currents far beyond the typical lightning strike, and for much longer durations too. I can guarantee you that this video will be unlike anything you've ever seen in your life.
I mean, I can imagine. Why would he do that? Why would he do that?
I have watched the video I did with just 100 car batteries. I did manage to pull some big currents there, but honestly, I did not utilize the full potential of those batteries. That being said, the data I obtained from those experiments has prepared me to get the most out of my new ones. So in short, even though I have 4 times as many batteries as last time, I'm actually expecting this bank to be 10 times stronger.
Oh my god.
The other thing about the first video is that it made the YouTube overlords a bit uneasy. Now, don't bring out the pitchforks, that's all since been resolved, but in the interest of avoiding issues with this video, I feel like I should spend a bit more time covering the scope and safety of this video. So let me be clear that this is not a stunt. The purpose of this video is to explore the physics of extreme currents. I'm talking scales like you'd find in a national lab, but since this is all in my backyard, I get to have a bit more fun with it. And to be honest, much of this is just going to be me sticking random stuff in between the contacts to see what happens.
Dude, yeah, right, there's so many cables. There's so many cables.
And
oh
yes,
my god.
I know this is a bit of a chaotic approach, but you know, this is really how a lot of scientific discovery happens. I mean, you know, the scientific method is great and all, but oftentimes, innovation is a product of just throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. So, why car batteries then? Well, as it turns out, car batteries are actually a great way of getting into electrical territory, where footage doesn't exist.
When it comes to making huge...
I was gonna ask, like, why car batteries out of everything? He might as well... Oh, I was gonna say he might as well create a nuclear reactor, but I don't think that's allowed. I don't think that's allowed, so... Oops.
Currents. Most people think of using capacitors, but interestingly, car batteries don't fall that far behind in terms of max currents. The benefit with car batteries is that they can dump those currents for far longer than a brief pulse.
That means that with a bank of, say, 400 car batteries, not only can I produce the most current ever shown on YouTube, but I can do it for many thousands of times longer than the next contender. And let me tell you, there are so many interesting and important aspects of physics that show up at this scale. And I truly believe that all of this is going to offer an unprecedented look into the nature of extreme currents.
He's just... he's doing... Oh my god. He's gonna fry more things. He's gonna fry more things, isn't he?
So much so that I really think it's going to change the way that you look at electricity. So yeah, that is the purpose of this video. Now for a brief word on safety. I mean, it feels a bit silly for me to say don't try this at home considering, you know, the sheer magnitude of this project. I mean, even a single car battery can mess you up if you screw up hard enough. So yeah, you definitely shouldn't wire together 28,000 pounds of lead acid batteries in your yard, at least if you're not familiar with this sort of thing. But seriously.
I watched this video. Am I familiar enough, guys? I watched this video. Am I familiar enough? But like 400 car batteries are a lot of money, so I don't think anyone's just gonna recreate this.
Seriously, I think it's my safety that concerns people the most. And yeah, what I do on my channel can come off as pretty ridiculous and sketchy at times.
Yes.
But I will say this. I've been posting my mad science creations to YouTube since 2006. And let me tell you, it takes more than luck to do this kind of thing for 20 years without getting hurt. And that is because I am not a risk taker. And I realize that this must come off as the most ironic thing that I've ever said. But I never approach anything potentially dangerous without, you know, fully understanding and mitigating the risks at hand.
I mean, he says this, but...
And no, I'm not in some fancy lab constrained by OSHA. I'm just a guy in my backyard with 400 car batteries. But I've dedicated my whole life to mastering extreme science, and I've slowly and carefully worked my way to the level that I'm dealing with today. So be assured, I know what I'm working with here.
So now that that's out of the way...
This video was posted in memory of styropyro. Oh no. Oh no. Imagine he would, No.
I want to briefly cover the issues I had with the 100 battery bank before showing the changes I made with this new one. I started by wiring them all in parallel, but due to contact resistance of the connections, I was limited to only 15,000 amps this way. I then rewired the bank for parallel strings of 5 in series, and the higher voltage allowed me to achieve a peak current of about 48,000 amps. In hindsight, I could have probably gotten more current from parallel strings of just 3 or 4 in series, but with this new bank of 400, I calculated that 5 in series, giving 65 volts, is what will give me the most current. So this is the number I settled on.
What?
Assembling the new bank took...
Oh yeah, why is he... Yeah, I was gonna ask, why is he even doing 400? And why is he not doing 500?
About 2 months.
But okay.
And manually
That's
placing
fair,
all
that's
14
fair.
tons of batteries was the easy part. Most of my time was spent digging in the plastic platforms, cutting and crimping 500 cables, and cleaning all 2,000 contact points immediately before joining them. And this is where the real challenge begins. How do you switch 400 car batteries? I've already mentioned that the kinds of currents I plan on dealing with are in a territory where footage doesn't exist, over 100,000 amps sustained. This also means that the kind of switch I need is in an uncharted territory as well. I need something that can slam the full power of the batteries to the loads as fast as possible, while also having the ability to disconnect power if necessary. Well, this kind of thing doesn't exist for less than the cost of the batteries, which means...
Wait, you guys, wait, how do you see the phrases over phrase? It's 7TV, it's a Chrome or like, not just Chrome, browser expansion, browser thingy, yeah.
the batteries to...
He didn't really choose the number, as far as I know. His sponsor just decided this is what they were willing to spend. Okay, you know what? That's fair. That's fair as well.
and cleaning all 2,000 contact points immediately before joining them. And this is where the real challenge begins. How do you switch 400 car batteries? I've already mentioned that the kinds of currents I plan on dealing with are in a territory where footage doesn't exist, over 100,000 amps sustained. This also means that the kind of switch I need is in an uncharted territory as well. I need something that can slam the full power of the batteries to the loads as fast as possible, while also having the ability to disconnect power if necessary. Well,
oh my god.
This kind of thing doesn't exist for less than the cost of the batteries, which means I have to come up with something myself. For the 100 battery video, I used a modified log splitter as the switch, and this worked pretty much flawlessly.
Dude, the amount of freaking cables!
It miraculously still works after sitting in my yard for 2 years. I figured I should just beef this thing up with a bunch more copper and steel. Now, since I need so much copper for the switch, I stopped by an unattended construction site and picked up a bunch of copper. So hopefully this will be enough to at least, get the switch wired. Then, of course, I might have to make a few more trips to wire the batteries.
Oh my god, how does he always look so intense? It's just his aura. He has a lot of aura. And, I wouldn't call him insane, but... maybe I would. Unintended construction site, yeah.
Now, as far as I know, this switch is going to be the biggest switch ever made for a YouTube video, at least by current. And let me tell you, when you're dealing with that kind of current, you run into some really weird issues. I'm expecting the switch to vaporize a lot of copper in operation, so that's why I'll be using the biggest blocks as the switch contacts.
It's just copper logs. That's crazy. These must be so heavy. Hello, Inario Kami. Hello. Don't worry about it. Welcome to Twitch.
Now, I've saved machining them for last because, honestly, it's not that often that I get to play with pieces of copper this big.
Yeah.
And actually, both of these blocks combined actually weigh more than I do, so yeah, there's a lot of copper here.
They're so big. They're so heavy. What? Huh?
Ugh, I just want to eat them. So what's
What? Why?
Something interesting that you can do with 2 giant pieces of copper. Well, let's try tossing a magnet down there. No, I'm not slowing down this footage. It's really just, moving through there at a snail's pace.
Snail mention!
Pretty weird, right? There it goes. I don't even need to drop it between the plates either, like just bringing this magnet close.
It's no, hey, snail space? What kind of snail? What kind of snail? I'm pretty fast, I'd say.
Without even touching it, it's almost enough to knock over this 65-pound plate. If I go ahead and force it all the way to the plate, it doesn't want to just fall off. It's really slow down there. It's like it's moving through syrup or something. Yeah, it's a really neat effect. Oh, heck. Forgot.
Oh, yeah. He remembered. Holy heck, guys.
That table's magnetic.
So what causes these effects? Even though copper is not ferromagnetic, it is conductive, so it can still exert magnetic forces. Moving a magnet nearby induces currents in the copper, and it's these currents that pull on the magnet to slow it down. Silver is even more conductive, so these effects are even more pronounced in silver bars. There's a reason I am showing you these demos. Generally speaking, this intrinsic connection between electricity and magnetism has profound implications about how the universe works.
This is so cool. Spiky liquid.
More specifically,
Oh, there was a lot of silver.
it foreshadows what's to come with the batteries. The currents I'm expecting will produce incredibly strong magnetic forces. This will make for experiments that look nothing short of witchcraft. That is, assuming I can even tame them in the first place. When I started tearing down the switch to make my upgrades, I noticed that steel shavings were sticking to it like a magnet, so I decided to investigate.
Ooh, they look like ice, right, guys? Wait. This is what my mom thinks Monster does when I drink it. True. So true.
Noticed that steel shavings were sticking to it like
It looks like ice. It looks frosted.
a magnet, so I decided to investigate. So I got this compass here, and if I put it next to this this steel stock, it's a little affected, but it's not like, super strongly. But if I come over here, and I get just in the vicinity of this old switch here, you can see that the steel on there was very heavily magnetized by being close to such extreme currents. It's really nifty. This led me to a less nifty realization. The original contacts mysteriously wore on one side only. I assumed it was because of misalignment, although weirdly, the contacts look straight when fired with no load.
It does look like it was eaten.
I didn't think too much about it when it happened, because the switch still performed well. I realized too late that this was a magnetic issue. In the previous video, I showed you that currents going in the same direction attract each other, while opposite currents repel. What happened with the switch is that the opposing currents were magnetically repelling each other. The one side burned through was due to asymmetry in the cable arrangement. The daunting thing is that these forces scale with the square of current. That means that if I triple the current compared to last time, the magnetic forces will be 9 times stronger.
Oh my god!
This could cause some real issues. I still went ahead with building the new switch, and did my best to keep opposing currents as short and as far from each other as possible. I knew the magnetics could still be a problem, but since the closing spring is so strong, I figured it might simply just work as is. And if not, well, I can cross that bridge when I get to it. The finished setup looks straight out of sci-fi. Over 1,000...
It does. But I didn't even think about that. The fact he builds all of it himself, like all the copper plates and stuff, crazy.
Pounds of copper interconnect 28,000 pounds of lead. The work blocks are fed with 2 opposing loops of cable, which is in contrast to the single loop I used last time. This will cancel out the lateral magnetic forces that I had so much trouble fighting in the first video. I decided to start small with the initial experiments, mostly to rule out major issues before the currents become terrifying. For the first trial, I zapped a 3/8-inch galvanized steel rod.
Oh my god, galvanized steel mentioned. Whoa!
The effect was pretty much the same as when I zapped one with 100 car batteries.
Oh yeah, so you can see it left a nice little splatter there. Even blew off one of the threads, which is really strange.
He loves
I
that.
did more trials with these small rods to dial in my camera settings. Although these don't look very impressive at normal speed, the slow-mo camera I have set up tells a very different story. The fact that this rod is galvanized is a critical detail here, since the boiling point of zinc is lower than the melting point of iron. This means that the zinc plating boils off first, which reacts with the air to form this striking green plasma. When the iron finally melts, it gets magnetically ejected upwards, which is not something I expected to happen.
Whoa.
For the next trial, I zapped a small aluminum bar.
It is pretty, right? Oh, aluminum
Alright, pulled
bar
about
does not have a
46,000 amps
chance.
with that one. Nothing to write home about, but like a pretty strong lightning strike.
Oh, I like how it sounds. Look, it looks like the way it sounds. Does it make sense?
The slow-mo turned out to be way overexposed,
Whoa!
which is funny because it's usually a lack of light that's the challenge when filming at high speed. I ended up doing a few more trials in an attempt to get a better shot of the action.
Damn. It's pixelated for me too, you guys. A little bit. Yeah. It looks really cool.
Look at that. It
Though.
got pushed up and then re-solidified in that hilarious configuration there. That was definitely a magnetic force that pushed it upwards like that.
It was difficult to get the exposure right with aluminum, since it burns so incredibly bright. But at
It's
least
too
I was able to
bright.
make out some of the finer details of
Flashbang,
the
you
plasma
guys.
fireballs in this one. I zapped a similarly sized titanium bar for the next trial. Kinda lame. I did find the slow-mo in this one to be pretty funny, since a random washer got sucked in magnetically, and a piece of titanium was spun violently as it was launched out. I stuck a small tungsten welding electrode on the blocks, and the current it drew was so low that it didn't even trigger my scope. The peak was probably a few thousand amps or so.
What?
Its white-hot incandescence looks super neat through the smoke of it oxidizing in air.
Dude, imagine how that smells. It smells like something, right? It has to be smelling like something, right?
At this point, I was ready to
Huh?
increase the current, so I started
Like
zapping
that?
some big bolts, with the first one being a ½ inch in diameter.
Hey, does it just smell burnt? I wonder.
I pulled a peak current of 54,000 amps there, which is higher than anything I pulled in the last video, but it's still far from what I wanted, so I moved on to 3/4 inch bolts.
Yay! Whoa! Okay, that was straight up a flashbang. What?
Inch bolts.
Bam! Whoa! Oh, metal vapors are usually extremely toxic, huh?
I could hear some sort of oscillation in that shot, which was picked up on my oscilloscope as well. The slow-mo showed some sort of bouncing around on the contact blocks, but it wasn't clear what was causing this. When I did another trial in daylight, I could see that the oscillation might be originating in the switch.
Hey? Jeez.
Look at that. I think we had a full burn through there.
In order to find the source of these
Ooh, oh my god, imagine touching this. Look how it glows. Imagine touching this. You're gonna burn your finger to your bone. Holy shit.
I think we had a full burn through there.
In order to find the source of these oscillations, I zapped a bunch of copper cables of varying diameters as the loads. I suspected that the switch was to blame, so I pointed my slow-mo camera at the switch for the first trials. Going from 2-gauge cable all the way up to 4-aught, I never saw issues with the switch. There were sparks from the initial turn-on, but the plate stayed closed.
Oh, I kind of agree, yeah. Can't help but be worried about all the sparks raining down on the batteries. I mean, apparently it's fine. But good point. Oh.
Next, I repeated the trials of increasing cable sizes, but with the slow-mo camera pointed at the blocks this time. What I found was super surprising. It sounded like the cables were exploding, but most of them weren't even burning through. They were being magnetically ripped out of the clamps.
Wow.
This force...
Wait. That was like... That was like the one movie maker effect.
Been burning through.
Chad.
They were being magnetically
Look
ripped
at
out of
this.
the clamps.
Movie maker effect.
This force came as a surprise to me, since I chose a wiring arrangement that cancels out lateral magnetic forces on the loads. Clearly, whatever mysterious upward force remained
Whoa.
turned out to be incredibly strong. When I made it to 4/0 cable, which, as a reminder, is the biggest American wire gauge size...
Don't eat it! What is with him?
Hot cable, which, as a reminder, is the biggest American wire gauge size, this effect was quite dramatic. It was violently bent upwards. It managed to suck in all of the ferromagnetic materials nearby. It too did not actually burn through, and instead was ejected from the blocks. In this shot, I measured a peak of 76,000 amps.
Whoa.
The real-time view of this shot showcases some of the pros and cons of the low-voltage arrangement of the bank. It cannot shock me, which is nice. However, it also means it can't strike an arc across more than the tiniest of gaps, which leads to situations where the load is teetering off the block, ready to go off again at any moment. I have multiple ways to safely deal with these scenarios, but the science machete is my favorite.
Where's my
Science machete?
Oh, heck.
Oh. Oh, that one. Is it safe? Is that safe? I'm not so sure.
Enough? Yeah. Yep, it's blown through. Yeah, fine.
Oh my
I should point out
god.
that my arc flash suit is more than adequate against these little sparks, and the magnetics make it impossible for me to fully short the bank this way.
Now that it's daylight, you can see that the 76 kiloamp shot just completely
Holy shit.
welded that cable to the plate there. It's just well, okay, it came off.
Okay, oh my god, for a second I thought he broke the camera. But I was gonna say, yeah, I guess because the cable is so, it's like a lot of tiny wires. He just welded it, I guess.
But it was, yeah, that was really stuck on there.
At this point, it was
Crazy.
clear that the block mounts were an issue, but that didn't mean that the switch wasn't an issue as well. So I decided to sidestep the block issue by C-clamping the copper cable loads. Now I need to bring up why I've been using spring clamps instead of C-clamps. If you watched the last video, you saw that when I zapped bolts, I had a lot of trouble
Whoa.
holding them on the blocks. The fact that I was using spring clamps to hold them down, and not C-clamps, infuriated a lot of viewers. So many people commented about this.
Oh
Many
my god!
of them calling me names for not using C-clamps, vices, or some other threaded mechanism.
What? Freaking millennials? What? You need C-clamps, my boy. Oh my god. So but never try seat clamps. Couldn't watch this crap more than 7 minutes. Dude, they're hating. Why are they hating so hard? What the heck? Huh? Oh my god, you, holy shit. Didn't finish watching it, but these clamps are a joke. Up your clamp game. The C-clamp elitist, it's crazy. Yeah, right, millennials is crazy. I didn't know people use millennials as an insult. Is he a millennial even? He looks pretty young, right? I don't know. Oh no. C-clamp situation is crazy, yeah.
It's my fault for not explaining this the first time. And I get it, C-clamps are so much stronger, right?
Yeah, oh no. It's because he didn't explain it. Oh.
Well, the fact of the matter is that you cannot use C-clamps to hold a round, rigid object on the blocks.
Oh, he is in his 30s. Wow. Oh, is it because of the testosterone thing that he looks young?
C-clamping a bolt onto the blocks will always lead to the bolt being ejected before it melts. It does not matter how hard you tighten them, this will happen every single time. There are a few reasons for this. For one, the outer surface has an oxide layer, which means that the contact regions have lower conductivity and thus heat faster than the bulk metal. Plus, in the case of round objects, the current has to pass through a small area as it jumps from the blocks, which also dramatically increases the heating near the contact points. To make matters worse, hot metal is more resistive than cold metal, meaning more energy is dumped into the hot areas, leading to thermal runaway. All of this results in the contacts quickly exploding off, shrinking the contacts to the point where they're no longer held by the clamps.
Oh my god. They turned like, holy shit. Look at them. Look at them. Huh? They look so bad. Hello, Grey Knight. Thank you for lurking.
Spring clamps, however, follow through with the shrinking load, holding contact with the block until the load finally melts. Of course, this is unless the magnetic forces are stronger than the clamps. That being said, C-clamps are still useful with flat objects, or loads that can be spread flat like stranded cable. The reason is that this moves the part of the load that melts to outside the grip of the clamps. Thus, for these next trials, I C-clamp stranded cable to the blocks, in order to see how the switch would behave with a well-secured load. The first test with zero-gauge cable gave an interesting result. It looked and sounded...
I like that. Thank you for the high Schnargen. Thank you. And the stretch. Also, hello, Yume. Hello.
Interesting result.
Boom. I love that.
It looked and sounded like a perfect shot. Something to note is how fast the sparks shoot out from the exploding cable. The slow-mo shows that the cable did indeed burn through, and judging by the spacing between the blocks, the cable...
Oh, you don't need to time out people for saying cutie. It's fine, I think.
that the cable...
If it was babe, yeah, but cutie is fine.
The spark shoot out from the exploding cable. The slow-mo shows that the cable did indeed burn through, and judging by the spacing between the blocks, the cable end was thrown back at a speed of at least 190 miles per hour. However, the scope shows that this was actually a bad shot, since it was split into two pulses of about 76,000 amps. Since the load was well secured, this implies that the switch bounced. Zapping two zero-gauge cables in parallel gave unmistakable proof that the switch was indeed bouncing. As violent as this looks in real time, the slow-mo is far scarier.
Wait, did you hear me? You guys, please. Mods. Mods, please. Don't overdo it, okay?
The switch managed to launch a toroidal plasma vortex into mid-air before blowing open. Honestly, I think I'm better off not knowing what kind of temperatures are involved to allow an ionized copper plasma ring to exist in air. Regardless, it's obvious that the plates are getting completely blown apart here, which is most likely a magnetic issue. For the sake of data, I zapped even thicker cables, and the switch plates continued to get blown apart. The C-clamp struggled to hold down the cable in a couple trials as well. The scope showed that I was reaching peak currents of nearly 90,000 amps, and although this is triple the current of a typical lightning strike, it's still far less than what I had hoped for. Clearly, I need to find a way to keep the switch closed. The fact that there are opposing currents on opposite sides...
Yeah, now I feel stupid. Now I feel stupid, you guys. God damn it. I'm trying to watching a science video here. No, mods are fine.
For the sake
Oh.
of data, I zapped even thicker cables, and the switch plates continued to get blown apart. The C-clamp struggled to hold down the cable in a couple trials as well. The scope showed that I was reaching peak currents of nearly 90,000 amps. And although this is triple the currents of a
Crazy.
typical lightning strike, it's still far less than what I had hoped for. Clearly, I need to find a way to keep the switch closed. The fact that there are opposing currents on opposite sides of the switch means that there are tremendous magnetic forces that push the plates apart. Some napkin math implies that these forces are on the order of a ton or more. This is on top of whatever explosive forces exist from the superheated plasma that forms in the switch. How can I combat this? The first idea that came to mind was to slap some huge springs on there because at some point a brute force tactic like that has got to work. But something about that just didn't feel right though. And then it hit me. I shouldn't be fighting the magnetic forces. No, I should be working with them. I realized that the switch plates would attract each other if I could manage to get like currents going along both plates. The easiest way to do this, at least using what I had built already, seemed to be by rearranging the switch cables from an X-shaped configuration to a Z-shaped one. That way, there would be a component of current going along the length of the plates, which would magnetically bring them together. After thinking about potential issues of this arrangement for a while, I decided to just try it out and see what happens. Rewiring the switch took me 4 entire days.
Yeah, same brain be hurting, but I think I get it.
Since I had to re-clean every contact point that I had exposed. An unfortunate reality of this project is that any changes to the circuit are very time-consuming. The initial tests with smaller loads like steel rods and aluminum bar were promising, so after these, I went back to zapping 4/0 cable. The first cable behaved in a strange way.
Pow!
Both C-clamps were completely ripped off the blocks, and the cable basically exploded without melting. I clocked a peak of 94,000 amps, which was only a slight improvement from before. I used 4 C-clamps for the next shot, but the cable was still ripped out of the clamps before fully melting. The third shot finally gave a complete burn-through. However, the switch was still bouncing. It sounded much more violent than before.
The random blue flash, you guys. The random blue flash.
And the pulses were spaced closer together, but the current hadn't gone up by that much. I hadn't even hit 100,000 amps. When I did more testing the next day, I struggled to hold the cables on the blocks and made these silly oscillators as a result. The mysterious magnetic ejection force had become much stronger after rewiring the switch. After adding more C-clamps, I eventually got to the point where I could melt a cable again. The slow-mo of the switch showed more toroidal plasma vortices and even angrier explosions. What was blowing open the switch now? The answer...
Wait, the blue is the hardest one, no? The blue is the hardest one, so when it's blue, that's like the hardest point, I think. If you did this in any forest here, you would instantly start a wildfire. Yeah, luckily there's no trees inside, right, guys?
finally made itself clear.
Oh no.
Okay, so you can see the melted wire there, which is interesting, but the real interesting thing is this. So here's the blown up, switch plates, and can you see that hole there? So it's on both sides.
Whoa.
It's basically made a Z-pinch here.
I got goosebumps when I first saw those craters, because I realized I had encountered a phenomenon of astronomical proportions. The switch was triggering a magnetic implosion via a Z-pinch. This is such an extreme phenomenon that it makes every project I've worked on up to this point seem like a joke by comparison. A Z-pinch is the effect where a current-conducting plasma is crushed inward by its own magnetic field. Some less extreme examples of the Z-pinch occur in lightning and electric arcs, and it's what holds the plasma in a thin filament.
Wait, electric arcs? That's how you call it? That's an actual thing? Guys, I should get like one of those coils. What are they called? I should get one of those coils for Steam sometime. I think it would be really fun. I think my camera is a bit too bad though, but Tesla coil, yeah, Tesla coil, or the plasma globe, yeah. Either would be good. I think it's cute.
My best guess for the
cool to
sequence of
look at.
events in the switch goes like this. When the plates first come together, the high points explode off and ignite a plasma, perhaps causing an initial bounce. The huge magnetic field then causes the plasma to implode into a thin filament. This leads to millions of watts of power being dumped into a tiny volume, yielding temperatures beyond my comprehension. A Z-pinch is balanced when the magnetic pressure inward is equal to the hot plasma pressure outward. At 100,000 amps, these pressures are so extreme that they can nearly induce DT nuclear fusion. The thing is, though, a Z-pinch does not form a stable plasma. I can only speculate which mechanism destabilizes the plasma.
I was gonna ask what is this, but it's a part from up close. What?
Form a stable plasma. I can only speculate which
I thought it was some sort of wall. Look, these splashes look like little bugs, and then it looks like wood, but it's the plate. It's the copper. Wow.
Mechanism destabilizes the plasma in my switch, but whatever it is, it goes off like a bomb. I figured I had to either vent the plasma gases or disrupt their formation early in order to get the switch to close. The first thing that came to mind was to add some copper cable to the plates.
Oh.
This didn't exactly work and managed to spray liquid copper everywhere, but
Yeah, no, serious, add it again. No, low quality copper. This copper is suboptimal.
I felt like I was onto something. I added much thicker copper cables along the switch plate for the next test.
Oh. Oh.
What the heck?
What the heck?
Whatever happened there was significant. The bolts.
Wait, the cable? Wait. What's the cable?
Whatever happened there was significant.
Huh?
The bolts holding the copper blocks were ripped through the wooden mount, and the cable was magnetically crushed into a smaller diameter. If we go take a look at the current, I think we had another 94 kiloamp shot there. Kind of odd how flat top it is. You know, that's interesting. I might be getting far higher currents than I expected. Because the fuse current equation, that is very much in line with a 150 kiloamp shot.
Whoa!
Interesting. At this point I realized the numbers were not checking out. Now I should bring up how I'm measuring current here. In the first video, I just looked at the voltage drop across the cables, which isn't very accurate and only...
This is me, by the way. This is me. I have no idea, honestly. You could tell me it's like 100 amps and I would... Okay, no, not 100, right? But you could tell me it's any number and I would probably believe it.
No, I just looked at the voltage drop across the cables, which isn't very accurate and only gives meaningful results when the current hits a steady state. For this video, I bought the biggest Hall effect sensor I could find that listed a price, which is this one rated for 20,000 amps. I've been feeding the cables from one of the 8 sub-banks through it, and then multiplying the value by 8 to get total current. However, this seems to be measuring far too low based on how fast this cable melted. I had previously made this spreadsheet to predict how fast cables would explode at a given current.
What the fuck? What am I looking at? It's so many numbers, you guys. This is so many numbers. 0.1, 0.5, 1. Okay. Excel, you guys like Excel sheets?
And it's based on the Onderdonk fuse equation. It predicts that 150,000...
I like the...
And it's based on the Onderdonk...
Circular mills. Puke emoji. I like that. I don't really know what a circular mill is. But I like how he hates it.
Fuse equation. It predicts that 150,000 amps are necessary to pop a 4-aught cable in 70 milliseconds. I suspected that the sensor was saturating.
I'm just wondering what's the context. Why does he hate it?
So I removed 4 of the 5 cables going through it, and then added a factor of 5 to the scope readings. I struggled to get a nice clean pulse in the subsequent shots, but I eventually achieved one good enough to confirm that this fixed the sensor issue, and I was indeed achieving far higher currents.
Pew! Hello, Burnttoast! Hello. Probably nasty, difficult math, maybe, yeah, probably.
That was 138,000 amps. I am just in awe. And it can go higher. There's more. 138,000 amps. This is big progress. Big progress. Wow. I need to go eat and just the obsession, man. What a project this has been.
Wait, he has a neighbor! Or is that also his house? Does he just have a big house, maybe? Or is it like someone else? All his property. Okay. I was gonna say, Okay. Wow.
I kept adding more cables to the plates, but I never got another clean shot this way. So, for the next configuration, I stuck one of the original switch plates in between the new ones. I was hoping it would weld itself on there at a slight angle to vent the plasma.
Pitty-pew.
So, the C-clamps actually failed on that shot, but I did pull about 110,000 amps, and the plate, somewhat welded on there. It's funny how, poor of a weld will still conduct really well, and that's just because the contact points will melt, and then there's very, very little contact resistance when that happens. So yeah, let's blow up another cable.
This wasn't working, but I suspected that if I allowed the zaps to go on longer, it might just finally close. So, I stuck 2 4-aught cables on the blocks, which quadruples the amount of energy dumped in the shot compared to a single cable. This led to the most violent display of electromagnetism I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Liquid copper was shot above the treetop level here. I measured a peak current of 140,000 amps, which gives a total circuit power of 9 megawatts.
Yeah, look how that...
What? What? Copper fountain. I hope he was far away from there while this happened. You don't want liquid metal land on you. As an ex-smithing student, let me tell you that.
Yeah, that wire piece got blasted back there while it was still borderline molten, and it just wrapped around that handle there. It's incredible. Actually exploded on both sides. Over here we got copper just painting everything. Even the ground is now copper plated. It's all the boiling copper getting sprayed everywhere. It's unbelievable. I was about to attempt...
It's gonna get turquoise at some point. Copper-plated sand, yeah.
to do switch config.
In like a billion years, not a billion, I don't think that long, but in like 1,000 years, archaeologists are gonna find a lot of copper and random metals there where he is right now, and they're gonna be like, why is it here? Why is that all here? Like, what? Huh? Come get Sir Oceanic, thank you,
configuration. But then I realized that was actually really awesome. Maybe I should try jamming some weird metals inside the switch itself, at least before I attempt to fix the real problem here. So on this one, I'm going to try to weld this copper plate onto the big plate here, and I also have a piece of steel in there.
Why are there 1,000 car batteries in the river? Oh no! Oh.
So hopefully it makes a lot of sparks.
Yeah. Oh, it actually looks like rain. It just looks like rain.
It didn't get particularly crazy here, but it still made a very nice shower of sparks.
There's not much left of that steel plate there. It's really welded on there. Yeah, that plate is a little hotter than I realized.
Whoa!
Yep, quite toasty.
What?
I stuck a puck of zinc in the switch for the next shot. Unfortunately, it was ejected from the switch nearly immediately. Other than the initial explosion, the sparks here are just from the copper switch plates hitting each other.
You know, I'm thinking that maybe aluminum would, is the solution here. Let's try putting this in the switch.
Do you pronounce it aluminum or aluminium? Guys, write it in the comments. I say aluminum, even though in German we say aluminium. Wait! This is where he stands the entire time? Are you serious? That's not very far away. It's like 10 meters or something. Also, it's wood. What? Is there a window even? I can't really tell. Oh no, I think there is. Yeah. No, now I can see. Okay. At least there's like a... What the heck? What the heck?
Holy! What just happened? What on earth just happened? That was so violent.
It was, yeah.
Wow! That was bonkers. That was so violent.
You guys, I'm scared going outside while there's fireworks going on. And he does this. Actually insane.
The copper cables were completely launched. Oh, interesting. It ejected, how did the ingot end up out here? What? I have no idea how that happened. You know, that iron bar there got pulled off the ground magnetically. I'm just trying to notice all the details on what actually happened here, but that's ridiculous that the ingot was ejected.
I had placed a bunch of bolts on this little table before that shot, in order to see how they would be affected by the magnetic field. Aluminum works well for illuminating slow-mo shots since it burns so brightly in air. As you can see, the bolts were quickly sucked in by the magnetic field around the cables. It's funny because I've lost a lot of tools this way, and that I've left them too close to the cables before firing the bank. A detail I'd like to point out is how the steel post and winch redirect some of the magnetic fields, and that's why a few bolts get trapped in their vicinity. The aluminum was violent enough that I did a few more trials with it. In this one, a smoke ring was shot out sideways from the smoke plume. I have no idea how that's even possible.
Whoa!
In this shot, it's the sound that stuck out to me the most.
I like this sound, I'm not gonna lie. I know, like, this is like reverse ASMR. Like the one I did, you guys. Oh yeah, his electricity bill should be pretty high too, I guess. Although in this case, I guess it's the car batteries doing the work. Oh, you're right, the sound is so
I've
good.
noticed that so many of the sounds I've heard from this project are unlike anything I've ever heard before.
Really?
These batteries are capable of some truly unique audio effects.
Yay, he made an SFX machine, you guys. What?
So this is that aluminum block that didn't quite all the way melt inside the switch contacts. It got close, but not all the way. So I'm going to put it on the yeet blocks this time.
Whoa.
Even though
Guys, someone should make like a fart reverb sound out of that. I know I'm very simple-minded. I know this is like a crazy science experiment, but I think it would make like a good fart sound.
I had yet to solve the switch issue, I realized that the peak currents I was achieving might be enough to pull off the most important demo of this video, and that's magnetically crushing a pipe. So why is crushing a pipe the most important demo? Well, I tried this in the last video and failed miserably. Even when I let the pipes melt from the current, they were still not crushed by the Z-pinch effect. At the end of the experiments, I said this.
Since the pressure on the pipe is proportional to the square of the current going through it, that means I'm not even getting close to what's needed at 40 kiloamps. If I had a few hundred more car batteries, well then yeah, I could pull it off. But for what that would cost, I'd rather build a more accurate lightning machine.
Oh, I remember that! Because when we watched this, the 400 car battery video was already out. Yeah, foreshadowing. He didn't know back then that he would actually get more. Crazy.
Now I bring this up because this car battery series was not my idea. I was actually hired to make these videos by the company AnyDesk.
Is he gonna do 1000 next?
No, they don't make car batteries. I'll tell you more about them in a bit. So what I'm getting at is that these maniacs bought me 300 more car batteries and another half ton of copper just to see me crush a pipe. So yeah, this one's pretty important.
I want to quickly add that if you have ideas for ridiculous experiments that you'd like me or another YouTuber to try, submit them at anydesk.com/science. It only hit me when I set up for the first pipe.
1000 car batteries, guys.
I crushed that this might be more difficult than I expected. Although these batteries are capable of pipe crushing currents, the circuit is slow to turn on. The combination of a bad switch, low circuit voltage, and cable inductance means that the pipe might melt before the current reaches crushing levels. A few attempts with various fuses did not manage to crush the pipe. Next, I decided to stick the unfused pipe on the contacts to see if it would at least crush while melting.
Oh my god.
It blew off both sides. Oh, that's crazy. I don't even know where it went.
Oh, I did see something over here.
What?
It's crushed. It's crushed. There it is.
It went all the way over there.
It was crushed. Look at that. Of course, it was brought to the melting point. So in some way, it was kind of cheating. But still, this is like, I could not do this with 100 car batteries. So I'm really happy to see this. It actually crushed the pipe. It's amazing. I'll have to
Oh my
take a look at the
god.
current. This one better
What?
out of that waveform. It's really only like 90,000 at the peak.
Whoa.
But, hey, it did it. It did it. So I actually
Also, yeah, it does look like a bone. Not this one, the other one. It did look like a
managed
bone.
to find the pipe that I tried, directly melting and crushing with my 100 car batteries. And you can see how it didn't crush at all. So it's really cool to see that's what the increased current does. So they both melted on both sides, but clearly the 400 car batteries really made the more dramatic crush there.
I still wanted to crush a pipe without it melting though, which meant I had to go back to using fuses. When I tried zapping an annealed pipe, I lucked out with a perfect shot of the switch. However, it did not crush the pipe. I clearly needed more time for the current to rise, but using any bigger of a fuse would melt the pipe first. That is, unless maybe I could try water cooling it. I found this aquarium in the woods years ago, and since I haven't put any fish in it by now...
Dude! What do you mean you've just found it in the woods? Who put their aquarium in the woods? What? Thank you for the
I
hydrate.
figured I might as well use it for this experiment.
I really hope that this works because I don't know what I'm gonna do if it doesn't. I mean, I put a lot of stock into the idea that I was gonna easily crush a pipe with these batteries, but yeah, it turned out to be harder than I expected. So yeah, I'm really crossing my fingers that this one works. So I'm gonna use this this giant flashlight here at full power to illuminate this, so my my slow motion camera can see it.
Oh my god. Yeah, what could possibly go wrong with this, guys, right?
The light. Okay. Okay, here we go. Get ready to sprint. So explodes, then I hit the button. Here we go.
Hey. Oh. I think the aquarium broke. I was gonna say, but now we're seeing it. Yeah, it's over.
Okay. What happened?
The slow-mo shows that the magnetic forces broke the aquarium right off the get-go.
What?
Then the pipe started to crush, but then it exploded.
Oh, that looked
Clearly,
cool.
everything is happening way too fast here for the water to do anything. The ends of the pipe were crushed when it exploded, but then
Weak water. No. Ah, that looks so cool, right? Hello, secure wolf.
this
Hello,
isn't much
hello.
different from what happened with the unfused pipe in open air. Notably, the switch performed horribly in that shot, and this was a good reminder that I should go back to solving that glaring issue.
Oh my god, you guys, it looks like the sound waves that that appear on my Adobe Premiere when I laugh. They look exactly like this.
Zapping smaller loads showed that the switch wouldn't bounce until the current rose to around 100,000 amps or so.
Hello, Ken. Hello, hello.
Maybe all I need are some huge springs to hold the plates closed beyond that. This seemed worth trying, but I was too impatient and zapped a few more items before making modifications to the switch.
Pew, pew, pew.
I was particularly excited to pop these magnesium anode rods.
Here we go.
Oh. Wow.
What? It blew up my fuses.
What?
It as you can see, it blew up all those fuses, and the magnesium won.
Wait! Oh my god, it did win! Look how pristine it still looked.
I see that they all melted at the, like at the lugs there. It wasn't the wire that melted. It could be that the fuse current of those lugs is lower than the actual quadruple-aught cable.
When upgrading the cable fuses,
Bro.
I noticed that 2 of them had been untorqued from the magnetic forces, allowing some corrosion to get between the contacts. With bigger fuses and clean contacts, I was able to achieve even higher peak currents. I got a particularly impressive number when zapping this zinc plate. Due to fresh fuses and hot weather improving the battery performance, I achieved a peak current of 176,000 amps with this shot.
176? 100, okay, 100, okay. 176. Okay.
Now, something I wanted to point out is, so I tossed this makeshift just little wooden cover over this actuator that pulls out the pin that fires the switch. And as you can see, it's taken quite a beating. It's just coated in copper there. Now, the funny thing is that I had these copper wires that held it in place, and those melted before the wood gave way. Wood is like a surprisingly resilient material against plasma blast. It's the same way with lasers, too.
Sounds like 76.
So it's funny how the wood outlasted the copper there.
At this point, I realized I had to quit procrastinating and decided to go ahead with welding some big springs to the switch.
Well, I will say one thing. These batteries...
Wait! Why is it thundering? Is it gonna... Uh-oh. What would happen if like if a lightning strikes into like the cables or something? You know, the tips of the. I mean, I guess it's very unlikely. It's not gonna happen, right?
Batteries, they don't scare me. What does scare me are these springs here. I have to load them up with the ATV winch.
Thank you.
So yeah, these are less predictable. I don't know what these want to do. My welds could rip off, bolts could snap. Who knows? These batteries, I feel like I have a good idea of what they're capable of.
Yeah, there's enough trees around, so it's not very likely to hit this part.
Okay, I've got these springs mounted on here. That way the internal spring, as well as these new springs, make a nice little triangle there. And I'm going to finally test it to see how it works. I really hope this keeps the switch closed. Scopes ready? All right, here we go.
What?
No, your video player didn't lock up. I just wanted to take this moment to admire the incredible light output of these copper plasmas.
Look at the rainbow! Look, there's two rainbows, or more circular rainbows. Yay!
Anyway.
Whoa!
I can't tell what happened. It seemed oscillatory, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, the switch was still bouncing. The new springs added so much tension that it maxed out the 1,600-pound hand winch I used to load them up, and yet they barely hindered the bouncing in the switch. Shorting one car battery may be easy, but shorting 400 takes a feat of engineering. I initially discounted the idea of using solid-state switching, but out of desperation I revisited the idea. Much to my surprise, I found that big SCRs were more than capable of switching the batteries. However, I couldn't find a single distributor that had big ones in stock, so I had to resort to brute force tactics. I bought another log splitter.
Oh my god.
I should point out that I've been using the hydraulic part of the log splitter to open the switch, not close it. The idea is that the tough hydraulics can rip apart the plates when they weld, and it's functioned perfectly for this purpose. However, its big internal spring I've been using to close the switch is clearly not enough. Adding a second log splitter makes the closing action hydraulic as well, but it comes at the cost of moving much slower than the spring. In addition, I added some rails and reinforced the entire structure with a bunch of steel posts. The reasoning is that the slow-mo shots had shown the plate sliding sideways from magnetic forces, so I wanted to lock everything to one axis to prevent that. I had a little mishap when I tested the return springs I added.
Oh!
Shoot. That was what I was worried about. Oh, it just straight up sheared off the hook. See, that's a...
He's always smiling. Is there a single shot of him not smiling? Like, wait.
That's what I mean when I say springs are actually scary. It's electricity doesn't scare me. Springs scare me.
I ended up just foregoing the return spring since the internal one seemed adequate.
Alright, for the first test with the two log splitters here, I'm going to zap two more of those quadruple aught cables just because they have a very predictable fusing properties.
He's happy to be alive. Makes sense. Makes sense. When you smile too while having this much fun. I mean, I also smile a lot. Don't get me wrong. I smile usually during stream and stuff most of the time. But still, wow, I'm just... He smiles like, you know, a lot. Yeah, he could be in mortal danger and he would excitedly laugh about it and say, interesting. Exactly.
Yeah, I really, really hope that this works.
Alright, here we go.
Ba-da-bam.
That was good. That was very good. I liked that.
The scope showed that the switch bounced
Nice.
at first, but it did eventually completely close when 160,000 amps were passing through it. The slow-mo confirms this as well, as the switch quits making sparks before the cables explode. The drop in current at the end was from the cables getting magnetically ripped from the blocks.
Whoa!
Further testing gave the same results. The switch would initially bounce, but it would still close afterwards. I had to concede that this was gonna have to do. I needed to continue on to the main experiments before autumn temperatures got too cold and put too much of a hinder on the current I could pull from my batteries. It took me months, but now I finally reached the point where I can hold sustained currents of over 150,000 amps. You're about to see what this kind of current can do to small objects, but I still think it's worth giving you a sense of scale and just how incredible this number really is. So, how big is 150,000 amps? Well, this is fusion reactor levels of current, and this is enough to ignite DT nuclear fusion in a Z-pinch fuser. This level of current exceeds the entirety of the auroral Birkeland currents that surround the planet on a typical day.
What?
It also far exceeds even the top 1% of lightning strikes. And in fact, the charge transfer during a single shot from these batteries is more comparable to an entire thunderstorm's worth of lightning bolts. Now, I get to screw around with these baffling levels of current. A 1-inch bolt was the finale of my 100 battery video.
It's so thick. 1 inch, that's like 2.2 centimeter. I'm not sure, 2.5. It's so thick.
So I'm curious to see if it's much different with 400 batteries.
2.5. Wow. Oh my god. It rained wait, what? Okay, thankfully he has like a little roof, because that would have gotten on him. He doesn't even wear a hat. I mean, he has this little roof, but he doesn't wear a hat. Oh my god.
Wow, that was a lot of sparks. That was really cool. Wow. So in the previous video I made
See, he just laughs about it. He's not scared. It was pretty cool. It was very cool. It was very cool.
a crowbar circuit. So of course, I want to try it with the 400 car batteries this time. Now, as a review, a crowbar circuit is a real thing. It just usually doesn't mean using a literal crowbar for it. It just means to have something short the power supply rails to protect the rest of the circuit. So yeah, let's see how long this thing will hold up to the car batteries. All right, and here we go.
Pew pew. Pew pew pew. Pew pew.
Everything's on fire. Oh, that's beautiful. That's insane. Look at all that hot metal. Look at all that hot metal. It's like burning the dirt. Look at that.
If his house ever burns, he's also gonna be like, oh wow, it's gonna look, that looked so cruel. Oh yeah, haha, my house is on fire. Oh my god, it looks incredible.
All that just incredible. It
Like
blew it up into a bunch
that.
of chunks. That's really crazy. It didn't do that last time.
Oh my god.
My friend James brought over his dad's old wrench to see it zapped by the car batteries.
Yeah, it does look cool. It does look cool.
Here's the leak, ma'am.
Pew, pew, pew. Woo!
Whoa, what? Wow.
That is
Wait, that broke in like...
Yeah, it broke in a bunch of spots.
Just like what happened to the crowbar, the magnetic forces on the wrench broke it up
Whoa.
into several pieces when it melted through. I still hadn't figured out where this upward force was coming from, but when I zapped...
What? Wait, what?
I still hadn't figured out...
Is it? Am I seeing this right? Is that him? Behind the tree? Is it? Am I seeing this right? Oh my god. Take cover, guy. I don't know if that's enough. It's It's right next to the thing.
Where this upward force was coming from. But when I
I guess, yeah, he isn't always in the safety booth.
zapped brass bars, I had an epiphany. The big bar suffered the same fate as many of the cables I had blown up, in that it was magnetically ejected before it could burn through. It still made an impressive display of sparks, though.
Yeah, he can't even see it from there. Wait, you're right. There's no reason for him to hide behind there instead of anywhere else.
It was the small bar that gave me the revelation.
Pew! Oh,
It got launched, didn't it?
The bar melted on both ends and was ejected perfectly upwards, being sent into a fast spin as it was launched. The bar solidified into this bent shape, which I figured approximated the equilibrium state of forces on the bar when it's on the blocks. I've already mentioned that the forces from the opposing loops of cable cancel out, which meant that the upward force must have been coming from the fields of the nearby path of current feeding the loads. I realized that an object off the axis of the main current would be exposed to much stronger fields than an object in line with the current. The fact that the current had to make the small bend off the blocks was the origin of this super strong force. The funny thing is that this explanation is actually wrong, but it still gives the right result. Mounting objects closer to the center of the block ends would reduce these forces. When I zapped a kilogram ingot of bismuth, I was able to jam it in the middle well enough to minimize these forces.
nice. Pity pity pew.
This was one of the most impressive burn-throughs I achieved with the batteries, and there was very little left of the bar afterwards. The slow-mo shows that much of the metal likely boiled off, giving these incredible plasma fireballs, as the metal vapor reacted with the oxygen in the air. The yellow color of the smoke is due to the bismuth trioxide that was formed in the reaction. I zapped a big
That's why he stands so close, because the camera. Because the...
block of zinc. It did lead to something funny.
Pity pity pew.
So look at this ridiculous thing. So these blocks were sitting on the ground and got magnetically sucked in there. Then they shorted and welded themselves together.
Zinc gives far more beautiful effects when it's plated onto steel, like on this galvanized pipe here. It's funny because I zapped all sorts of weird and exotic metals for this video, and humble old zinc stole the show from all but a few of them. Zinc's fairly high reactivity, paired with its unusually low boiling point, gives unique effects unlike any other metal I've zapped, other than maybe bismuth. The fact that zinc burns green at a modest light level is what really takes the cake when it comes to slow-mo filming, though. I zapped a couple titanium bars, and although they were cool, they were so bright that I failed to get good slow-mo footage of them.
No!
The most notable effect from this trial was that the two bars magnetically attracted each other and
Yeah, it's the fart metals,
welded
you
themselves
guys.
together. I zapped some pieces of zirconium, which is among the hottest and brightest burning metals.
Bam, bam, bam.
That was so bright.
Much like titanium, zirconium was so bright that it too was challenging to capture on camera. It feels weird for me to complain about something being too bright, but the enormous contrast in light levels is difficult to squeeze within the dynamic range of even a nice camera. I substantially dialed back the exposure on the slow-mo shots compared to most other metals, and they still ended up on the overexposed side. Now
Wait, so it wasn't actually a night shot? It was just dark? What? What? Wait, was it like this the entire time? I didn't realize that. Huh?
that being said, I love how well the little popping pieces of burning zirconium show up in these scenes.
Oh, they were always daylight. Oh my god. It was been that way since the beginning. Wait, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. I was confused for a bit. But I thought he would just, I didn't know what I thought.
I revisited titanium in the form of little chunks to make another attempt at slow-mo. I cranked back the exposure, but it still wasn't as much as I should have. Now that being said, it still showcased similar popping sparks to what I got with the zirconium. As a bonus, this shot made a perfect smoke ring as well. I was curious how this configuration would work with a bunch of Abe's zinc and pennies.
No money! No! It's now destroyed forever.
I'm pouring one out for the US penny.
That's so many!
Ha! This one I see I shot with a laser at some point.
Oh, okay. Okay, it's already ruined. Oh, is that $1?
Funny.
Whoa! Is the money gonna be in places? Wait.
So there's one
Is the money still gonna be like intact?
really big spike there. Like about 140,000 amps for a short bit. So that's wow, that was actually more than I expected, but of course it was very brief. That's hilarious.
I was surprised how violently the pennies were ejected from the center like this. But then again, weirder things have happened at 140,000 amps. Yet again, zinc showed off its beautiful pyrotechnic colors in this shot, which were likely complemented by the copper shells that surround the zinc cores. The thick and delicious zinc oxide smoke seems to make filming the burning metal so much easier, as the smoke diffuses the light and limits such stark contrast in light levels. I tried the same configuration with a bunch of bolts and nuts to see if ferromagnetic effects would change anything.
Oh! Oh, you're slowly getting rid of the penny, really? I mean, to be fair, it's just one penny. That's very little money. You can't buy anything with a single penny or even 2 pennies, right? It's no longer being manufactured. Okay, but then that means a penny might be worth 2 pennies in the future.
Wow, look how much different that was. So they didn't even get ejected. They all just stayed there for the most part. I guess they were magnetically sucked in there. That's really interesting. Wow. Yeah, look at that. Just one giant mass that all melted together. Now that is an abstract art piece there.
Wait, the penny is worth more as scrap metal than its money value. Wait, is that true? That's so that's so silly. That's so silly. What?
Beautiful.
But I can imagine.
I revisited aluminum and had a few notable shots. In one trial, it made a really cool sounding oscillator. The lens on my tree camera was hit in another shot as well. Since aluminum burns so brightly in air, I wondered, would it burn in the same way if I zapped some underwater?
$5,000 camera? I don't know how much it is, but I bet it's a lot. And the lens is also a lot, right? I mean, I guess it's only the lens that's broken. only. Wait, is it lens or objective? I don't know, you guys. I'm not a camera pro. It's a 24 what? Not cheap. I mean, of course it's not. Of course it's not.
Brightly in air, I wondered, would it burn in the same way if I zapped some underwater? When I tried crushing a copper pipe underwater, it ended up just exploding, but it made for really cool high-speed footage. I found another aquarium in the woods to attempt this setup with aluminum cable.
Alright, so camera, flashlight, yeet, camera. Flashlight. Okay, think I'm ready.
It's 1,680 pounds. Wait, yeah, he found another aquarium. Huh? Surely he just
Glass
found
went
it.
absolutely everywhere on that shot. I mean, everywhere. Water went everywhere. My cameras are soaked. That was ridiculous. That thing blew up so violently. Okay.
It really did. I kind of wish he had like fish-shaped metal for the aquarium. I mean, I guess he wouldn't, you know. I guess he wouldn't. It would be kind of evil towards the fish, the metal-shaped fish, but it would be silly. I think it would be silly. To be fair, maybe you can find aquariums in the woods. I don't think it's a common occurrence, though. Have you guys ever found an aquarium in the woods?
Whoa! Oh my goodness. Oh, that was a cool shot. Wow. That was beautiful. Okay, yes. That's what I wanted.
Only the Lord decides how the switch will perform in a given shot, and this was its slowest turn on of the entire video. Now, this gradual ramp up of the current actually made for some interesting slow motion effects. Once the aluminum was heated well beyond the boiling point of water, the Leidenfrost effect became apparent through these neat oscillating bubbles. The switch managed to close about a millisecond before the cable melted, pushing the current to around 70,000 amps as it exploded. You can actually see the aluminum melt here, and notice how it gets magnetically crushed inwards the moment before it explodes. This explosion was so much more violent than the copper pipe that I suspect that chemical effects played a role. The reaction of aluminum and water is extremely energetic, exceeding even thermite by mass. However, this reaction is incredibly difficult to initiate, but I figure a 70,000 amp plasma would do it. I wanted a better shot of the explosion itself, so I obtained another aquarium and crimped another aluminum cable. I used a smaller lug that better fit the cable in order to push the explosion to the center.
Alright, here we go.
Wait, another aquarium? Another one? Okay, come on. Come on. What? Yeah, you found a lot, huh? Oh.
Okay, that sounded good.
Unfortunately, the copper lugs exploded before the aluminum here. I managed to push 100,000 amps through this one, but the explosion was less violent than the previous shot, which implies the shot earlier was indeed chemically enhanced.
I would like him to see. I would like him to try with like maybe there's like an aquarium that has stronger glass or something. But it's probably gonna be hard. Like, I feel like maybe every aquarium in the world is gonna explode. But I would like to see what happens if the glass didn't explode, right? I don't know.
I substantially dialed back the exposure on the slow-mo compared to the last shot. And even though it was the copper that exploded here, the details of the plasma bubble are much more apparent this time.
Whoa!
The last element on my list to zap is tungsten, which is the metal with the highest melting point. This
tungsten cube.
quarter-inch thick rod may not seem like much, but this is tungsten after all, so there's a sizable mass here.
Here goes nothing.
Wee, pew.
Did it just burn through instantly? What? Alright, this is really strange here. So, it actually just burned and melted the steel around that. There was steel holding it down and it just melted right through that. I think the tungsten did burn a bit, but yeah, it just melted everything else around it. I guess.
Bro!
I shouldn't be so surprised. But
whoa! It's too strong. It looks like a cigarette. It looks like a cigarette. You see, here's like the end, and then this is the rest of the cigarette, you know?
It's pretty funny. Well, I smacked it to unweld it, and it just broke it. Of course, tungsten is pretty brittle, so I'm going to have to get a bigger piece of tungsten here to zap. Alright, I've got this long tungsten rod here. So it's a 1/4 inch in diameter. And the thing is, I know that electrically, this isn't a big challenge for these batteries here. This is really more of a materials challenge. Alright, so the idea here is that I've added some copper under the this tungsten rod here. And then I'm going to use these graphite blocks to hold it down with the clamps. So yeah, hopefully this works. I'm starting to worry that I'm not going to be able to pull this off. But this should at least make a lot of sparks. so let's try this. All right, here we go.
Oh! Damn! Pew!
Oh yeah, it completely detonated. Oh yes, it completely detonated in there. Wow! Completely obliterated it.
Yeah, it's like fireworks.
So let's see what the remnants look like here. Look at that, that's true melting.
I bet it's also almost, it's about the same price as fireworks too.
It happened so fast that it definitely wasn't burning. It actually straight up melted the tungsten.
The slow-mo of this shot is one of my favorites from the entire video. The white-hot rod gets magnetically shattered into pieces as it melts, sending a shower of burning fragments upward in a scene that resembles something from the Hubble Space Telescope.
Alright, so you can clearly see that that definitely melted there. So, I mean, and it happened so fast that this couldn't possibly just be from burning. You can see how it liquefied there. I might try zapping these pieces in parallel to see, maybe get a better slow-mo shot.
The rain is my favorite part. I mean, I like the sound a lot too, but I like to look at the rain a lot as well.
Heck. I dialed back the exposure a bit compared to the first shot, and yet, this one ended up even more overexposed than the first. I really should have expected this with twice the metal though.
Not only did it melt, it was splashed upwards there. Man, I wish tungsten wasn't so expensive, because I'd love to throw just a huge chunk on here.
He should have asked the sponsor to buy tungsten as well. It's just so silly. He says tungsten. Tungsten's expensive, but then he also has 400 car batteries.
I ended up splurging on this half-inch thick rod of tungsten.
Oh!
Once again, this may not look like that much, but it weighs nearly a kilogram.
Never mind. He has a... never mind. He got more tungsten.
To put that in perspective...
Aw, squirrel.
This thing weighs more than a typical fox squirrel, which is North America's largest species of tree squirrel. The thing is, though, melting this rod in air felt like it wouldn't even be a challenge. Of course the batteries could do it. I wanted to melt this rod underwater. This meant I had to come up with some clever mounts. Even though copper melts at a far lower temperature than tungsten, I figured that with enough contact area and a big enough current, the tungsten would still melt even if the full contact area of the copper melted first. The only issue with a full liquid metal conduction interface is that nothing would stop magnetic forces from blasting the copper plates outwards. So, I loosely bolted the plates to a block of phenolic. That way, as the copper melts, the magnetic forces will twist the plates in a way that exposes the tungsten to more solid copper. I couldn't find any more aquariums in the woods, so
well, yeah, every mad scientist has a an animal, a pet. Like usually they tend to have cats, I think, but he has a squirrel.
I had to start buying them at Walmart.
The setup of this took...
Wait, what?
Aquariums in the woods. The tungsten to more solid copper. I couldn't find any more aquariums in the woods.
What?
So I had to start buying them at Walmart.
Okay, so you're telling me he still found what 3 or 4 aquariums in the woods?
The setup of this took so long. I will be very disappointed if this does not work. All right. Oh man, I'm nervous.
Wait, look, the season changed. All the leaves are gone now. Oh my god.
Okay. All right, here we go.
I mean, the leaves aren't gone. They're just all on the floor. Yeah. Naked trees. Just standing there.
What happened? I don't even know what happened.
Oh, it was over a year.
Oh, it's totally gone.
What?
happened here?
I
I didn't hear like this big explosion, but I just heard like this boiling. The scope makes it look like it melted instantly. I don't see the tungsten rod. I don't know what happened to it.
What?
And it clearly exploded. So, yeah, we'll find out once this is done saving. That's really strange.
There's a lot to unravel in this footage, so I'm going to start with the real-time views.
You just can't see. Also, whoa, water. Oh my god. Water feels...
Let's start with the obvious.
Blue?
The tungsten was blown to pieces as well as the aquarium. However, did you notice that crazy blue smoke? The submerged piece of white-hot tungsten reacted with water to make this ridiculous mixed suboxide. I had no idea tungsten could make a blue compound like this. When the water drained and this piece was exposed to air, it then burned with the typical yellowish smoke associated with this trioxide. Another important detail is that the cables feeding the aquarium Z-pinched so violently that they nearly uncrimped themselves. Now for the slow-mo. The current in
Well, I guess tungsten rod well used, I guess.
this shot quickly rose to 100,000 amps, producing tremendous magnetic forces on the cable loop feeding the rod, and it was these forces that shattered the aquarium. It took a full 1/10 of a second for the tungsten to melt after the aquarium first broke, and since the view is so obscured by water at this point, I can't say for sure whether it actually melted underwater. Chances are better than not that some part of it was exposed to air, though.
Yeah, the Lorentz forces were too strong, it looks like. It's so hard to avoid those huge forces just because the cable has to bend when it goes in there. You know, if I had time to redo this again, I would replace 2 of the edges on the aquarium so I could, with like, on a wood or something. That way I could pass the cable straight through it.
Is it just time, or is it also, money? Because, tungsten.
That would save a lot of the forces. But I guess for now I'm gonna have to call it quits.
At this point, I decided to revisit the magnetic pipe crushing experiments. Even though I had already managed a hot pipe crush earlier, I wanted a better slow-mo shot of that happening. So I repeated the trial with another unfused pipe. However, it failed to crush. The new switch was way too slow to crush even a melting half-inch pipe. With the switch before this, the current would quickly ramp up to 100,000 amps, even if it bounced afterwards. While this new switch can actually close, it can take a full 1/10 of a second to reach full current. That's way too slow. I moved up to bigger sized pipes for the next trials. I didn't have any cable that would conveniently crimp to this size of pipe, so I just smashed the pipe ends flat with a hammer. The idea with the bigger pipe is that it would allow the current to rise to a higher value before the pipe melts, although it comes at the cost of requiring even higher current to achieve a given magnetic pressure. Unfortunately, even this did not lead to the pipe crushing. Then one day I had some friends over and I stuck a pipe on the contacts, just with the intention of making a loud bang for them. The switch decided to turn on quickly for once.
What was the second one?
So usually this
They're also not wearing any helmets. What?
the switch is slow, so you heard the switch go and but something was magnetically ejected. I don't know what. Something got thrown.
That was good.
Yeah, the shell looks a little cramped.
Woo! Yeah, look at that. Completely, totally crushed.
The pipe was crushed so violently that it folded twice. It's too bad I didn't set up external lighting for the slow-mo camera, since I would have liked to have seen more detail here. The magnetic field managed to suck in some nearby steel plates and toss them into the yard. This sent me on a wild goose chase of catching this effect in better lighting.
No, I don't trust the shelter. It's not enough. It's not enough shelter, if that makes sense.
Naturally, the effect turned out to be super difficult to repeat, as the switch returned to misbehaving and turning on too slowly. I was determined to get this to show up on camera though, and blew up more pipes than I'd like to admit in pursuit. The switch wasn't always the failure mode in every shot though. Sometimes the C-clamps would give way, and other times, steel objects nearby would get sucked in magnetically and photobomb the shot.
Oh,
Crushing the pipe flat did turn out to be somewhat
How dare they photobomb?
repeatable. And if I hadn't seen the cool double fold earlier, I would have been quite content with this. However, I figured that with enough trials, the odds would be in my favor for the double fold to happen again. After countless trials, I finally got the lucky shot I was waiting for.
Whoa!
In hindsight, I think the trick was placing the pipe on the edge of the blocks, as this intersects a stronger external magnetic field than zigzagging the pipe through the middle. This adds additional lateral forces along the full length of the pipe that help initiate folding. I didn't stop there though. I still wanted to crush a pipe without melting it, and came up with an elaborate plan to do so. For starters, I suspected I could bypass the log splitter switch by using an SCR to slam on the circuit. Of course, I didn't expect the SCR to survive this, but if it worked for a single shot, that would be good enough. I also upgraded the pipe from the hardware store variety to oxygen-free high-conductivity copper. The reason being is that at liquid nitrogen temperatures, it's 10 times more conductive than copper at room temperature.
Wait, so he's... Wait... Literally...
This
what?
allows for significantly more time for the current to rise before the pipe
okay,
melts.
okay.
Now,
Okay,
I
sure.
close the main switch.
Liquid nitrogen, okay, sure.
It's not touching. Okay. Now, I hit this. Go. No, I missed it on the camera!
Heck.
What?
No! Ah!
I had been struggling with my slow-mo camera getting EMP'd.
No, his little jump, no!
I had been struggling with my slow-mo camera getting EMP'd, so I removed the trigger cable prior to this.
I
forgot that
it got EMP, no!
this changed the trigger rules on the camera, and pressing the record button didn't actually start the recording.
Okay, so, man, it's too bad I don't have data from this shot. But it did pinch a little bit. But I think the most intriguing part is that it uncrimped itself. So this cable probably got, crushed, and then it pulled itself out there. So it pulled out the crimp. That's pretty wild, because I really crushed it down with a hydraulic crimp. So there was some pinching, and there was a little bit of crushing. But man, I just wish I had the data from that shot. That's a real shame.
I decided to give this setup another try with a much more aggressively crimped pipe.
I'm going to hit the camera to detonate it, right? Okay.
Pew. Yeah, I feel so bad because he wasted materials when he can't take the shot, right? Pew. Pew.
Okay, what happened? Didn't even see any of this. Let's go look at the slow-mo.
Wait, but this is actually during the night,
I
right?
did actually manage to capture slow-mo of this one. It's interesting how the SCR in this shot exploded, even though the one prior to this did not. Of course, the first one was still destroyed, though.
Well,
I like
looks
the
like
blue.
it's the SCR that failed there. So, yeah, didn't quite work. That fuse is still totally intact. It had a peak of a little under 100,000 amps, but yeah, couldn't make it any higher than that.
I wonder how many FPS he takes. I've never taken any slow motion stuff, so I don't really I don't really know a lot about it, but it has to be like a lot, right? Like 1,000 or something. 12? I don't think it's 12.
I wonder how much of that was the SCR's fault versus
Probably
other
more.
heating in the circuit. But
Right?
yep, disappointing.
At this point, I had to admit defeat with the cold pipe crush, because there are still so many more experiments left to do. The cold pipe crush could probably be done with a pulse-forming inductor though, or maybe just another 400 car batteries. I want to do a brief section on zapping
Is the next one gonna be 800?
auto parts, since this was a popular request for me. An ignition coil seemed like a good place to start.
Whoa!
In the past, I've abused ignition coils to pull off some cool high voltage tricks.
Oh, that's so cool!
With the batteries though, the internal coil melted too fast for anything interesting to happen. I figured that a starter motor would be more durable than the ignition coil, since it's designed to draw a significant amount of current in operation. Something tells me it isn't quite rated for the full 400 car batteries though.
Alright, here we go.
Pew pew.
Slow mo
Whoa! It wasn't that bad.
shows that the motor did start to spin, but it still only managed to survive for mere milliseconds before burning up.
Now I'm just gonna try shorting it through the case. I feel like this should be, should make more sparks this way at least.
Pew pew pew. Pew pew pew.
Ah yes, much better.
Yeah.
I have this long dead car battery here that measures 0 volts and will not take a charge. I'm curious what will happen by zapping it with the batteries.
You know, I feel like containing this one wouldn't be such a bad idea. I'll play it safe with this microwave casing.
The microwave! The microwave! Hello, Mitgliederversammlung. Hello, hello.
Here we go.
Oh. Oh?
Oh, jeez. Can't tell what happened.
This was one of my most surprising experiments. It looked as if nothing happened, but instead of exploding, this battery was actually revived somewhat. It seems the plates were desulfated because the battery can now take and hold a charge. That's wild.
You know, jumper cables work pretty well with one car battery, so
I mean, I guess.
of course I wonder how well they'll work with 400. I wonder if they'll melt first or if they'll magnetically rip apart. So I guess there's just one way to find out. Oh hey, I was not expecting this. Oh, you're gonna be a problem because I can't blow things up if you're here. Are you gonna interfere with my car batteries?
Oh.
My squirrel friend Ophelia decided to visit, so I had to wait to test out the jumper cables. She's used to all the explosions at this point, but
Wait. She's eating a bone? She's eating an antler?
figured I'd let her chew on these antlers in peace before blowing anything up.
Yum, 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 yum.
After a
Yum, yum,
subsequent
yum, yum,
splooting session, she ran off and I was able to continue with the jumper cable test.
Aww, so sweet, so cute. Oh, sharpening teeth. Okay. Say squirrel in German. Eichhörnchen. Everyone say it with me, okay? Eichhörnchen. Eichhörnchen.
So here's the jig for the jumper cables. So I'm just going to, I just have them short of there, just to see what happens there. So we'll see what breaks off first. Here we go.
Huh?
What? The switch is closed.
Oh, well there's the culprit. It melted through the, I guess where it was crimped to the clamp there.
Whoa!
Well, these clamps are just gonna melt off. I at least want to see what the actual cable does. So now I just have the bare cable against the blocks. Here we go. Alright.
Please don't do anything.
Alright, so
No.
this is kind of sus. Get that in focus. Look how look, it's silver colored. Is this like copper plated aluminum or something? The box said it was pure copper.
Uh-oh.
Well, that's not pure copper. I don't like that. I think this is just garbage jumper cable.
Bruh. False advertisement. What?
I ended up making some much nicer jumper cables using 4/0 copper cable.
Alright, this is what I have for the new jumper cable setup. So, have them actually bolted together there, but you can see how that is glued together there. So that's really what I wanted to show. Alright, am I ready? Yes.
Oh. Oh wow.
They got obliterated. Obliterated. Nice.
This was exactly what I was hoping to see. The huge currents traveling in opposite directions through the cables caused tremendous magnetic forces that ripped them apart.
Oh, that's so silly. That's so silly. The way you can see, like, I think this is the glue?
I couldn't get this to happen with the garbage cables I zapped earlier because they melted before passing enough current. The final auto part to zap is the suspension spring here, and I did this one with an audience.
Are you guys ready?
Yep.
Alright, here we go.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
This suspension spring ended up as one of my favorite shots of the whole project. And for such an
Whoa.
ironic reason, too. The long length of steel acted as a resistor and substantially limited the current, starting at only 8,000 amps and dropping to less than 1,000 by the time it melted through.
Whoa.
It's usually all or nothing with these batteries. Either the items are obliterated in milliseconds, or nothing interesting happens. It was cool to see something that fell in the middle ground between these two categories. Later on, I zapped a length of chain that gave a similar middle ground result. In this case, the chain reached a steady state where it got red hot but never melted through.
Oh, this would look really cool in like a metal music video or something.
Other than this chain and the suspension spring, though, everything else I zapped either instantly exploded or had no visible reaction.
Whoa!
Thank you for the hype.
For the next experiments, I've hooked the output of the car batteries up to this metal stick here, mainly because I want to try cutting stuff with it. Now, I did some experiments like this in the last video, but with this one, I'm most interested in testing different electrode materials, because I can already tell you that this steel electrode here is not going to last long. So yeah, let's get to experimenting. Now, I'm going to have to step up the PPE for this section. In particular, I have this arc flash hood. Now, this was actually given to me by Greg Lay. And if you don't know who he is, he recently had a lot of notoriety for his Lorentz cannon video that he posted.
Oh my god. Holy shit.
Now, I actually find it hilarious that this is the video that got him so much notoriety because that's really like a tame project for him.
It looks very, very impressive though.
He's currently building the biggest Tesla coils ever operated right now.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
To do some just ridiculous lightning experiments. So yeah, that guy is the man when it comes to electricity. So if you don't know who he is, you should definitely check him out. And yes, a big thank you to him for giving me this arc flash hood.
I'm gonna keep this section short because between my respirator and arc flash hood, it sounded like I was speaking through a wet sock on my microphone.
Whoa.
I would like to take a moment to appreciate the sparks that iron makes, not only here, but throughout this whole project.
Again, it sounds like farts, Chad. I'm sorry.
Iron sparks aren't nearly as bright as many other metals, but this fairly subtle effect pairs nicely with the extreme powers I have available. Plus, when it comes to filming these effects, it's much easier to capture something like iron sparking compared to a bright metal like magnesium. Honestly, iron is an underappreciated element overall.
You know, I think of those memes where it says this is why women live longer than men. Yeah. That was fun.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I'm gonna be honest. I know it's a surprise to you guys. I do not know how to. I don't even know how I would set this up. So, you know, I'm just saying. Thank you for the stretch. Thank
Now,
you.
I want you to notice those curved paths there. I felt this, force off to the side when I was trying to cut there. I think that was being magnetically deflected. It was really strong too. All right, now I've upgraded to a magnesium electrode this time. Now, magnesium doesn't have a very high melting point, but it is surprisingly conductive, and most importantly, it's very pyrotechnic. So I'm curious to see what happens when I try cutting iron with this magnesium electrode here. Oh dear.
Right off the bat, it was clear that magnesium was an entirely different animal. Since magnesium burns so readily and energetically in air, these chemical effects greatly enhanced the heat produced in the arc. It didn't take long to ignite a good portion of my yard on fire with these scenes. The most dramatic difference compared to iron was how hard it was to hold the magnesium electrode. It was extremely difficult to make more than a brief contact, since the electrode would get forcefully ejected from the object I was zapping.
Yeah, bitrate reducer. I mean, but as I said, it looks up as low bitrate on my screen. I think it's like, I don't know, maybe YouTube can't handle it, or whatever he used to edit it.
Magnesium was obviously drawing more current here.
Now, one interesting thing I do want to note is that the magnesium here didn't get that warm. So even though, it produced just incredible temperatures there, what happened here, because it's so conductive, it really didn't get that hot. It wasn't on fire, so I dumped some water on it, and it even like sizzle. Now this is the one I'm...
Camera might be an issue. Is it the camera? Maybe. I'm not sure what's happening to the bitrate.
most excited for. It's a big rod of titanium. Now titanium has it's more resistive than the magnesium is, which honestly is probably going to be a good thing. But also
too much pixels in this frame. I guess it's probably camera.
resistive than the magnesium is, which honestly is probably going to be a good thing. But also has a very high melting point, and more importantly, it's still very pyrotechnic. So yeah, I'm going to hook it up to that stick over there and try it out.
Pew. Imagine looking
I would say
at
that
this
titanium was my favorite of the
there you
three
go.
metals I tested. It was far easier to hold the titanium electrode compared to the magnesium one, likely due to its much lower conductivity limiting the current. Even with the lower current, I'd bet that the average power was still higher, simply because I could actually hold the electrode in place and get a faster train of pulses compared to what I could with magnesium. Titanium's high melting point also meant that this electrode lasted much longer than the others.
Look at that titanium rod. I
Whoa!
didn't realize it was getting so hot.
It looks like plastic now. It's so red. It doesn't look like metal anymore, you guys. To me. Oh, is it YouTube or no matter what camera you use? I mean, it's a lightsaber. It is a lightsaber. Wait, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, it's clearly more resistive there, but I can't believe that. But wow, that one is fun. That is very fun.
There's an old saying that
Yay!
says that anything will act as a fuse if you put enough current through it. I feel like most of the experiments in this video fall under that. However, I do want to try popping some actual legit fuses with these batteries. In most other scenarios, a 500 amp fuse would seem pretty huge, but in this context, it's pretty tiny. What happens when I zap it with the batteries?
Alright, here we go.
If you thought that was boring, well, it's designed to be boring. A fuse is supposed to break the circuit in the least exciting way possible.
Oh.
I cut open the fuse to see what's inside. As you can see, it's filled with sand, which prevents it from getting spicy when it blows. Some of the sand actually melted to the fuse element there. Here I have a 1000 amp fuse, and I'm actually going to cut it open first. That way we can at least see some sparks when it pops. This fuse looks to have parallel elements inside. I hope this one is more exciting than the last one.
Oh, he's taking out the sand? Okay. Pew! Is
Nothing to
anything
write
gonna
home
fly?
about, but that vivid green flash was pretty neat.
I can see the burn through there was a lot more complete compared to the last one. That's probably just because I got rid of all the sand inside.
I refilled the fuse with indium metal to see if anything cooler would happen when it zapped.
Indian metal? What's Indian metal? Huh? Indian metal. Oh, indium. Oh. Oh. India. Oh. 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 Oh, oops.
Probably should have done the math on that one because the indium didn't melt at all. So I think there's just way too much cross-sectional area of indium. But look at that,
It's so, he says indium. So, wait, I guess that's how you say it. But it sounds so similar.
magnetic force is actually bent those tabs there. Those are thick tabs. So that was, that's pretty silly.
The slow
It's pretty silly. Yeah, that's pretty silly.
mo shows that the extreme currents may have magnetically ejected the fuse before the indium could melt. Regardless, I doubled up the cable feeding the fuse for the next shot to play it safe.
Alright, there we go. Yeah, I don't think there is a drop of indium left in that fuse. That just completely exploded.
Damn.
That's really, really funny. Oh,
Stop! I love the adjectives he's using to describe stuff. It's silly, funny, interesting. Yeah.
there's a bolt there that I
True.
did not put. I did not put that there. That just, of course, got magnetically sucked in, as everything does. And let's go take a look at the current. 120, 130, 130,000 amps. Not bad.
The slow-mo on this one turned out awesome, even though the clamps barely held up for the shot. Most of the indium was ejected as it liquefied, mainly via magnetic forces at first, and then when the fuse finally popped, it made an impressive explosion.
Alright, now it's time for the real inspiration of this section. Some years back, the electricity legend photonic induction popped a 5,000 amp fuse.
Oops.
As far as I know, this is still the biggest fuse that's been popped on video.
Whoa.
Well, I'm gonna try popping a 6,000 amp fuse.
Bro.
This monster weighs something like 45 pounds, and it's the biggest fuse that I could find online.
That's a lot of pounds.
Now, it's not often that I can beat photonic induction at anything, so I felt like this was a good use of my batteries.
This monster
no.
has silver-plated copper contacts and has an impressive 200,000 amp interruption rating. That's one heck of a fuse.
Now, of course, being a 6,000 amp fuse means that it's meant to conduct 6,000 amps without popping. So something like this car battery here, I mean, it could short this car battery all day and it's not gonna pop. I mean, it's gonna kill the car battery first. So, this is where the 400 car batteries come in.
So how much current does it take to pop this thing?
What
Well,
does he?
that depends on the duration.
What does he do with the car batteries when he's done? I know in the first video he threw them into the river. And, you know, he's making a second video, but what is he doing with them after?
Of the impulse. My
they
6,000
can be
amp fuse is the
recycled?
top line on this curve here. So based on this, at 10,000 amps, the fuse will last about 17 minutes before popping. If you go up to 20,000 amps, it'll last about a little less than a minute.
I mean, I know he wasn't actually throwing them.
Of course, I'm most interested in this end of the curve. At 100,000 amps, it'll only last 10 milliseconds. Now, of course, the actual peak current that this gets to before it pops is going to depend on how my switch wants to behave. But regardless, this shouldn't be very hard for my batteries. In the interest of making more sparks, I opened it up and emptied out all the sand inside. This does change its fusing characteristics, but I would argue that due to
Ooh, nice crunch. Did you hear that?
inside. This does change its fusing characteristics, but I would argue that due to the nature of the continuous extreme DC currents I'll be feeding it, the fuse will now take an even higher impulse before breaking the circuit. The reason being is that without the sand, it's going to make some angry plasma.
That's hilarious. It's just a bunch of smaller fuses in parallel. It's like that all the way down, isn't it? Fuselets all the way down. I'm not even going to bother cleaning the contacts here because it'll melt straight through all that, char and stuff on there. All right, there it is. All the cameras going. Here we go. Let's pop it. Let's see. All right. I think I'm ready for this. I think I'm ready. Let me get my slow-mo camera set up here. All the cameras good? Think so? All righty. Here we go.
Whoa! Whoa! Dude, that could have definitely hit him. Come on, what? Wow.
Jeez. I think I popped it. Wow. I can't wait to see what it pulled in the scope there. Oh yeah, big pulse there. Oh, what happened?
Oh no.
What? It's not dead. No way. It melted the contact block. It didn't blow up the fuse. It's crazy.
What?
It didn't pop it.
What?
Look at that. It melted the
Oh, dang.
block first. And it ripped up that C-clamp. That's insane. I'll just have to
Actually
resituate that because
crazy.
the fuse is completely intact. Wow.
Actually crazy.
I was so confident that was going to work in one shot too. It's crazy.
Sure enough, the close-ups show that the fuse itself was completely untouched by this. The sparks were simply from the contacts below burning up, causing the C-clamps to give way as a result. If you wonder why I didn't bolt the fuse to the blocks, it's because the blocks are too uneven from previous experiments, meaning bolts would lead to the same results as the C-clamps. This isn't something I can buff out. A suitable clamp, however, will allow the high points to melt, giving a conduction path with very low resistance.
Okay, so I've changed this side to spring clamps. That way it can follow through as any variations burn out there. So yeah, let's give that another go. Dude, I can't believe that this is taking me 2 tries. This is silly. All right, here we go.
It is silly. Did it do it? Oh, I think it did.
Okay, yes, that one finally popped it. Thank goodness. There we go. I'm surprised how clean of a burn through that was. It just completely vaporized those pieces in there. Kind of surprised, just considering the voltage I'm dealing with is low. But that definitely did it. That was a full pop. The switch had a few hiccups there, but once it finally closed, the fuse pulled 150,000 amps. So that is why that was so violent there. Nice.
Nice.
The slow-mo shows that the fuse made an incredibly violent plasma jet when it burned through. Impressive. One thing I have to mention is that when photonic induction popped his fuse, he used a capacitor bank that gave a short but intense impulse. Now he claims a peak current of 200,000 amps. Now even though he doesn't provide waveforms, he likely achieved at least that number. Now when I set out to make this video, I really thought I was going to show you the highest current on YouTube, but that's because I didn't consider his video. And I popped a bigger fuse than him, but as far as the highest peak current on YouTube, he still has me beat.
Damn.
I will say this though.
Damn, that's rough. That's rough, isn't it?
His capacitor bank is very impressive. And although I don't have a capacitor bank like he does, I do actually have a more energetic pulsed electrical device. No, I'm not talking about the batteries. I'm talking about the cables feeding the batteries, specifically in their inductance. When the bank fires, there's actually more energy stored in the magnetic field around the cables than photonic induction's capacitor bank at full charge. This inductive energy plays a role in the explosions I get when objects burn through.
Yeah, now they're in an aquarium. I like the aquarium ones a lot, you guys.
Now, even though I popped this fuse, I still have one experiment in mind left for it. I want to see how it acts when filled with metallic sodium. Interestingly, when I was considering sacrificial fuses for the pipe crushing experiments, sodium metal stuck out to me as a promising material, since it has a very high conductivity along with a low melting point.
Oh, right! Sodium is like, you know, it's like very soft. I remember back in school, they would show us sodium. You can cut it. You can just cut it, I think.
Yeah, just sort of smash it all in the middle like that. Maybe I can shove it back in.
There was a lot of leftover sodium from that shot, so I smashed it up against the contacts in order to give it another zap.
Wait, you guys want to eat it? Why you guys want to eat it? I don't know. I don't think you should bite into a block. But I haven't tried it, so, you know, I can't really comment on that.
Alrighty, here we go.
Yeah, it's part of salt, to be fair.
Honestly, these shots were kinda mid. I think sodium's high conductivity actually made it hard to heat up with the batteries. Spraying everything down with a hose afterwards showed that little droplets of sodium had been splattered everywhere, which I thought was pretty funny.
It's very funny, yes. That's very funny. With the water content in your mouth, make it feel like super pop rocks. Wait, it might. If you just put sodium in your mouth? I don't know. I wonder, honestly, I wonder.
Now it's time for my favorite experiments of this whole project, the magnetic experiments. As you've seen countless times by now, the currents I can pull from my batteries produce incredibly strong magnetic fields. Now, these fields were a nightmare when I was trying to build my switch, but now that I have that somewhat solved, now I can actually...
Oh my god, I thought for a second he meant like a Nintendo Switch. I'm cooked. I'm cooked. I'm thinking of playing... I'm thinking about Tomodachi Life.
For a nightmare when I was trying to build my switch, but now that I have that somewhat solved, now I can actually...
Oh, third-degree burn? Oh. Oh.
have fun with the magnetic field.
A typical electromagnet involves a coil of wire wrapped around an iron core. At the currents I'm dealing with, though, an iron core will just saturate, which means I'm better off not using anything as a core material.
Now the problem is that making even a bare coil is an engineering challenge at these currents. It takes an enormous amount of metal to not melt just instantly, and that's on top of how magnetic forces will try to shred any coil arrangement.
As an example, I wound this coil here with stiff aluminum cable. Its resistance is high enough that it will only pass around 50,000 amps or so. Even at these limited currents, the coil windings are strongly attracted to each other and cause the coil to scrunch up. At 150,000 amps, these forces would be far stronger.
Silly splingy dings, sploinky doings. So silly, Chad.
I spent a lot of time considering how I was going to make suitable coils without spending a fortune on metal. But after witnessing how anything becomes a magnetic black hole at these currents, I realized that even straight pieces of copper would be more than adequate for these experiments.
Sure enough, by sticking a couple cables on the blocks and tossing a bunch of nuts and bolts around them, the magnetic effects are super obvious.
Whoa!
Wow, look at the exploded cable there.
The switch performed horribly in this shot, but even so, the nuts and bolts were glued to the cable before the current had hit even a quarter of peak. When the cable finally melted through, it managed to catapult some of the bolts across the yard. Anyone that grew up with a CRT TV is probably aware of the fun that can be had when a magnet is brought near them.
Chat?
Their sensitivity to magnetic fields is the same effect as all the
Oh!
other magnetic forces in this video.
I didn't know that, you guys.
It is yet another example of the Lorentz force acting on current. I was curious how much a CRT TV would be affected by the fields produced by this battery bank. The load for this shot is my standard pair of 4/0 copper cable.
You played around with the magnets too? I didn't know that. But, you know, CRT is kinda... It's not really my time.
Hope this doesn't kill the TV. All right, let's do this. And here we go.
Pew pew pew. Pew pew pew.
That had an adverse effect on the electronics in this TV.
Whoa!
The magnetic field was so intense that it just turned off.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that could happen.
Oh, yeah.
I thought for a second it would like keep on. I thought for a second it was still on. Oh my god.
The CRT looks different after that. I know it temporarily killed it. But, yeah, let's take a look. Yeah, I think that was a bit excessive because the magnetic field was so strong it just completely deflected the beam off the screen. So, yeah, maybe I need to move it away. Yeah, that plasma shield did some work there. Ripped off one of the C-clamps, and then wrapped that cable back. A peak of 160,000 amps.
Whoa.
So, pretty intense. You know, I think it was a bit much to have the TV in the center there. I moved it out this time, and I also, I'm going to limit the currents by using this steel rod instead of copper. Because, yeah, I think 160,000 amps was a bit much. Then also, now that the magnetic field is going to be reversing directions here, so maybe we'll actually fix the TV by having it sit out here. So, yeah. Okay.
I like that the case is like kind of transparent. It's kind of like it is transparent. Okay, it's just I think the plastic has just, you know, how do you say it became a little milky? But I like transparent cases. They're very cool.
Fix the TV by having it sit out here. So yeah.
Okay, I'm calling it right now. In a few years' time, transparent stuff will come back, and we're gonna have transparent phones and stuff. Like you can see the tech from outside. I don't understand why they're not doing that at all anymore. Yeah, it was trendy in the 90s. Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Please no, do you not like it? Oh, it was from a prison? Do you think that is that why? Because then they can't hide anything in there.
Yeah, that was much gentler that time. That was only about 55,000 amps. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. I'm glad I tried that. Now it looks as good as new.
The image on a CRT TV is produced by an electron beam, and it's this current that gets deflected by the magnetic field. This sort of magnetic beam deflection is
dancing,
actually
guys.
the basis of mass spectrometry, which is a standard analytical tool in chemistry. I made an important discovery when I zapped a Z-shaped cable. My intention was to physically simulate the forces and torque present on my Z-switch arrangement. The clamps ended up failing on this one, and it functioned as a magnetic catapult. If you look closely, cable fragments were ejected so quickly that it managed to do a little tree trimming out in the distance. The slow-mo shows
That's so silly.
a lot of cool details. A bunch of magnetic junk got sucked in like in every other shot. But in this one, a little magnetic particle managed to orbit the cable for a bit. The main takeaway from this shot, though,
Whoa.
is that the cable is bent from its original arrangement and violently ejected upwards. I stuffed the cable back in the blocks, but this time, I bent the cable so that it was below the center line of the currents feeding it. The switch struggled to close in this one, causing the cable to bounce around for a while at first, but the main result was clear. It was being violently slammed downwards this time. A bonus is that when the fuse in the center finally exploded, it ejected a neat ring of liquid copper. These shots gave me an epiphany regarding the mysterious forces that eject the cables from the blocks. I thought I had solved it earlier, in that the fields from the straight current through the blocks was causing this. But no, that's completely wrong.
Thank you for
Those
the
fields do
highlight.
exactly the opposite. They actually pulled inward via the Z-pinch effect. That means that this mysterious, tremendously strong outward force is actually beating the fierce Z-pinch forces that pull it inward. What's actually going on here is quite profound.
I've had to read a lot about fusion power for this project because I'm dealing with fusion levels of current. And the people in this field have done a good job at documenting the just crazy things that happen at extreme currents. Now, sure enough, the same phenomenon that launches items in my setup is actually a huge issue in fusion reactors. So here's the basic idea for what's going on. So when a current path is perfectly straight, that means that the magnetic forces that crush inwards are also perfectly balanced. However, this is an unstable equilibrium. If there's any sort of bend in this current path, then you get this buildup of magnetic field on the inside of the curve compared to the outside, which causes a net force pushing outwards. Now, of course, this makes the current path make an even bigger bend, which means you have an even bigger force pushing outwards, and you get this runaway force, and this effect is called the Kink instability. Now, in my setup, the fact that the current has to make this small bend off the blocks is actually the origin of this incredibly strong force that launches my items.
And just to clarify this insanity, simply making the current take a 1-inch jump off the center of the blocks produces forces so strong that it can rip up 4 8-inch C-clamps that have been wrenched down so hard that the handles are bent. That is the nature of extreme currents for you.
Now, I'm lucky in that my current path is through a solid conductor, which means I can just add more clamps or maybe pound the ends flat first to defeat this force.
Oh, I'm
Now,
not
when the conductor is a
shaming,
plasma,
I
like
think.
in fusion, this is much harder to deal with. In fact, it's instabilities like this that are one of the main obstacles to achieving fusion power.
In order to mitigate the kink instability, I started using leftover pipes from the crushing experiments as loads. By pounding the ends flat, I can mount them closer to the blocks than the 4/0 cable, and the rigidity helps prevent runaway forces compared to the flexible cable as well. For this shot, I sprinkled a bunch of magnetite under the pipe.
Pew pew pew. Pew pew.
I was disappointed when I had to concede that I couldn't get a perfect turn-on with my switch, but in many of these experiments, the initial chaotic changes in current honestly make for cooler video. In this clip, an initial brief pulse launches some of the magnetite beyond the pipe, and this happens once again before the switch finally latches shut. If you look closely, you'll see that the magnetite spirals inward as opposed to traveling straight to the pipe. The coolest part of this clip is after the pipe explodes and the magnetite rains down here in this crazy pattern. I think what's happening here is that the magnetite was magnetized by the current, and this residual...
The Kink instability prevents his switch from being turned on properly. Why would you just say that?
magnetization causes the particles to clump up and stick together. I wanted a better slow-mo shot of bolts getting sucked into the magnetic black hole of all this current, so I repeated this experiment using a pipe fragment as the load.
Boom. Whoa! Oh my god! Jump scare.
All right. Beautiful.
Unfortunately, both C-clamps failed to hold down the pipe in this
That
one,
really got
causing
me.
a bunch of sparks to obscure the view. One of the C-clamps was completely destroyed here as well, since it briefly conducted some of the battery current. I used a longer pipe for the next shot. That way I could hold it down with 4 C-clamps instead of 2.
I really like the smoke. Look how it's. Wait. Yay!
This could be enough.
It's so blue and yellow. Cute. Not this. It's not this. It's more like Tide Pod colors. Only red is missing.
This could be an epic one. Let's see how this one went.
Oh, epic? Epic?
Oh, yeah. That was awesome. Cool. Yeah, it was awesome. That was a good shot.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell where it
was.
went, but that's just because it got slapped backwards there. And all those bolts just went everywhere. Yeah, it looks like a peak of 160,000 amps on that shot.
Oh, it was sweet in colors. Can't wait to see IKEA's next ad with that.
Switch had some issues, but hey, it did its job. Sorta.
This is one of my favorite shots of the entire video. The bolts were quickly sucked in by the current, and the oscillatory nature of the startup is once again apparent here. It's clear that it's not just the bolts getting pulled in by the field though. A spring clamp on the ground found its way to the pipe as well, and even way in the background, you can see everything magnetic getting thrown around. The pipe eventually collapsed by the forces of the current it was carrying, and it made a hefty fireball when it finally melted through. I wanted to see if I could hit a weight limit for the lifting forces, so I placed about 10 pounds of big bolts all around the pipe for this shot.
It looked like some of it got censored, but it just betrayed.
I don't understand what happened. What? That's weird. They all got sucked in and glued to it? What? That doesn't make any sense. What? That's so weird. I've never had that happen.
This one was unusual in that the bolts didn't fall back down afterwards. They were stuck to the pipe.
No, this is really weird. So the pipe got pulled downwards and these are all like glued to the pipe. They're all welded together.
The slow-mo shows that the nearby bolts were effortlessly sucked in by the magnetic field.
Dude, this is art, you guys. I know this is science, but also this is art. You guys, look at that. Look at that.
And less than a tenth of a second later, the bolts that were out of frame on the ground got sucked in as well. There was so much iron getting pulled in and accumulating on the pipe that it eventually spanned the entire gap between the blocks, which meant that it too began directly conducting some of the current. This current welded all of the bolts together and around the pipe, so this is why they didn't fall off afterwards. The biggest iron object I had that would fit between the blocks was this anvil. It weighs 10 kilos or 22 pounds, so it's a hefty...
Wait, was that another aquarium, or was it already broken?
box was this anvil. It weighs 10 kilos or 22 pounds.
No, that wasn't broken. That wasn't. It was necessary, was it? Was it? Why? How many aquariums did this man buy? Oh my god.
So it's a hefty little piece of iron.
Yeah, it did make the viewing experience a lot better. I agree.
All right, here we go.
I mean, I guess he found 3 in the forest, so you know. Pitty pitty pew. Pitty pitty pew. Pitty pitty pew. Pitty pitty pew.
It sounds like the anvil got zapped.
It never stops being crazy to me that the strongest electromagnet I've gotten to screw around with on video isn't a big coil of wire around an iron core or even a coil at all.
Whoa.
It's merely a straight piece of copper that just so happens to pass an entire thunderstorm's worth of charge in a couple tenths of a second. Much like the big bolts before this, the anvil was pulled up against the copper blocks, causing it to pass some of the current as well, which is the reason for the sparks.
Heck?
I want to point out something surprising about the dirt on the blocks here. I know countless commenters are going to lecture me about dirty contacts increasing resistance and causing problems, but I found that the max current is completely unaffected by whether I clean these or not. Where contact resistance actually matters is in all the little cable connections throughout the bank. Those have to be spotless to get the currents I'm achieving. However, I found that anywhere the current density gets extreme, like the blocks or the switch, the contact interfaces actually melt, giving a purely metal conduction path that has extremely low resistance. If anything, the dirty blocks help the switch close faster, because the current initially ramps up slowly. Pretty weird, right? I zapped a pipe near an array of compasses in order to visually map out the field.
I like how cleanly he arranged them. Oh.
Notice how they're pointing all over the place at the start here. This is because of the pieces of iron nearby that have been magnetized from the previous experiments.
Yeah, right? It's so scary and he always stays so close.
Jeez. Where'd it go? Where'd the pipe go? I have no
Pipe
idea
is
where
gone.
the pipe went. Here it is.
I mean, to be fair, now that I think about it, the tree is definitely sturdier than the shelter. The shelter is like more area, but I feel like the tree is thicker, you know?
Oh, it got crumpled like crazy.
But it's also closer.
Look at that.
Oh shit!
Wow, it really folded in. That's impressive. That was one of my best crushes.
I nearly didn't include this compass bit in the video, because what the compasses show doesn't make any sense. In particular, the 4 compasses on the side of the block to the left read alternating values. And that's ridiculous. They should all be aligned with each other. I initially chalked this up to the compasses being cheap garbage and simply reading incorrectly. The pipe crush at the end was so good, though, that I wanted to include this clip in the video.
It's okay. I like the compasses for the aesthetic. They look like little books, right? They look like little books. Is he like 5 meters from his house? Yeah, he is.
I decided to give the compasses the benefit of the doubt. I grabbed my box of new compasses and tested them with a magnet. Much to my surprise, they all tested perfectly. That's strange. I had kept the compasses used in the experiment separate since they were dirty, so I grabbed that box and tested them. Lo and behold, some of them read exactly the opposite of what they should. What gives? A compass works on the principle of a magnetized needle aligning itself with a magnetic field. It seems what happened here is that the magnetic field became so strong so suddenly that the compass needles that were initially aligned against the field didn't have enough time to reorient and were remagnetized in the opposite direction.
Whoa! Oh my god, the pipe is too strong. Well, not the pipe. It's it's everything, but whoa.
That's pretty neat. I had noticed that these pipes have been acting as decent catapults, so I wanted to try intentionally launching something this way. I glued a big steel nut to this GoPro here and notched the pipe to cause it to melt through in this location.
Is the GoPro? I mean, I guess GoPros are sturdy. Guys, we're gonna go on a little ride. Unless it dies. Oh, bye-bye.
Yep, we're good. All right, here we go.
Oh. Oh? What happened? What happened to us? Oh no! It just
Where'd it go?
went to the side.
Oh, it didn't get launched.
Hmm.
Well, it did not get launched into orbit, it looks like.
It's still on though, so maybe it's fine.
Sad. A little crispy too.
The inertial forces were too strong, and the nut was
Oh,
immediately
no.
ripped off the GoPro. The nut was catapulted into oblivion, but the GoPro barely moved. I ended up bolting the nut to the GoPro in a very ironic way in order to give this another try.
In a very ironic way is a good way to put it. Come on, I want to be shot up. Oh, wait. Wait, not like that. You know, I want to shut up into the air, okay? Oh. Whee!
It did get launched.
You can't see, you can't tell what's going on.
It wasn't launched as far as I'd like, but I am impressed how well it held up to the magnetic fields. I've had major issues with my cameras getting EMP'd throughout this video, and that's even with them spaced much further away from the big currents. The time has come for the final experiments and my favorite shots of this project. I'm going to see what happens to ferrofluid next to a pipe carrying 160,000 amps. Ferrofluid is a neat way to visualize magnetic fields, and it consists of magnetic particles suspended in a fluid.
I love it so much. It's so satisfying. Someone needs to make slime with ferrofluid.
Most demos showcase it around permanent magnets, but of course, it works just as well around electromagnets too. Considering the strength of the fields I have available, I expect this one to be pretty cool.
It will, I'm sure it will. Oh. Oh? Oh.
Woo!
Oh, it splashed everywhere. Did you see?
Exploded? Oh, good, the pipe crushed. All right, that was cool. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, holy! That was an epic shot. Wow. Wow. Okay.
Ooh, I want to see.
I didn't realize that the dark background wouldn't offer enough contrast against the ferrofluid to see it rise up, but at least the fluid wrapping around the pipe was super obvious. I want to point out the bit of ferrofluid that gets trapped around this little iron post, and that's due to the iron concentrating the fields in this area. As the pipe heated up, so did the ferrofluid around it, causing the oils to boil off and make a thick white fog. The pipe in this shot was crushed from the current, and when it finally melted through, the sparks ignited the oil vapors and made a huge fireball. I decided to give this another try with a better background, using a piece of wood to offer some contrast against the ferrofluid.
All right, here we go.
Pshpium. 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 Yes! Ooh, it splashed the plank.
That was nice. See what that looked like. Wow, so completely stained that piece of wood black from the ferrofluid, and then it just crumbled that pipe. Nice. I wonder what the current was on that. Oh, it was huge. Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was 160 at its peak. That was a really good shot. Well, for the new switch configuration, holy heck.
Holy heck.
Sadly, I had bumped the camera lens out of focus for this one, which is such a shame because this shot was destined for greatness. This was my last bit of ferrofluid too, so I almost called it quits here and settled on the earlier shot. I realized that if there was one shot to do right, it was this one. So I ordered another bottle of ferrofluid to give it yet another go.
I wonder if the ferrofluid is expensive too.
Alright, so I'm gonna go camera, light, heat switch.
I hope not.
Okay, here we go.
Pretty cheap. I mean, to be fair, compared to the car batteries and the tungsten, it's not that hard to be cheaper than that. Oh, yeah!
Wow.
That's Super Mario Sunshine stuff, guys.
Woo! That is always so surprisingly loud. Yes, yes, that was finally it.
This was the shot right here, and I think it's the coolest thing I've ever filmed in my life. In the span of 1/10 of a second, nearly the entirety of the dish of ferrofluid was slammed up against the pipe, while the total circuit power rose to over 10 million watts. One detail that stands out to me is how the smaller bits of ferrofluid in midair are aligned with the field, and another is that many of the particles take a spiraled path inwards. Just like in the other attempts, the pipe implodes from the 160,000 amps that it passes, and once it melts through, it ignites the hot ferrofluid to make a huge fireball. I think it will be hard for me to ever top a shot like this.
Oh my god, it's so cool. Yeah, cinema, actually. the video about ferromagnetic slime I found says copper, nickel, or cobalt, so you should be fine making some at home. Should I make ferrofluid, ferromagnetic, ferro slime? Should I make some ferro slime at some point? I think it would be really cool.
I've already mentioned that this video was not my idea. It was actually the company AnyDesk that reached out to me and wanted me to experiment with a bunch of car batteries. And of course, they bought me all the batteries as well as the supplies I needed to make this video possible. Now, the fact that a video sponsor came up with the best idea for a video on my channel is still just astonishing to me. I know AnyDesk is going for the whole Red Bull of science kind of vibe, and they really hit out of the park with this one, because this was a genius idea for so many reasons.
It's one thing to make an electrical video about something like capacitors or Tesla coils. And although these can be a lot of fun, these aren't things that most people can relate with. But car batteries? Everybody knows what those are.
I mean, I guess.
And everybody knows they are powerful.
That's true, that's true.
It goes far beyond the clickbait appeal, though. These car...
Do you think... Sorry that I keep pausing, but... Do you think he still has the setup, like, outside?
They are powerful. It
Just
goes far
has
beyond
it?
the clickbait appeal, though. These car batteries gave me currents rivaling what's seen in multi-billion-dollar facilities.
Because I know I would be too lazy to, like, remove that. I would keep that there.
They allowed me to poke the fundamental forces of the universe. And as a result, they allowed me to take footage unlike anything ever recorded before. You can thank AnyDesk for making all of this possible.
So what even is AnyDesk? Well, AnyDesk gives you a lightning-fast connection to all your devices.
Whether it's your computer, your surveillance network, or even your favorite experimental apparatus, you can manage them from all around the world with low latency and on low bandwidth. With AnyDesk, you can offer tech support for loved ones from the comfort of your home, or help out work clients from wherever life takes you. AnyDesk is free for personal use, and
Wait! Oh my god! He's on the river!
offers business plans that are custom tailored to your IT and work from home needs.
AnyDesk is also in the business of supporting some of the coolest science projects on the internet.
If you have ideas for ridiculous science experiments that you'd like me or another YouTuber to try, submit them at anydesk.com/science. The ideas that are brought to reality will win cool prizes and lead to the creation of epic videos. So yeah, a big thank you to AnyDesk for making this project possible.
Yay!
So at this point, I've ran out of time to continue the battery experiments.
Oh.
I mean, winter's clearly here.
Holy shit! Holy winter! Oh my god!
Temperatures dramatically limit the kind of current I can pull from the batteries. That means that any further experiments will have to wait until next year when it warms back up again. So, what will I do with the batteries until then? Well, they're just gonna hibernate out here in the yard. Now, I know this is surprising to most, but the rain and snow really aren't bad for them. I mean, the only critical detail for storing them in the cold is that they're kept fully charged. I mean, the first 100 have been sitting out here for 2 years now. Oh my gosh, the snow is blinding me. But those 2-year-old batteries still test almost new, just because I've always kept them fully charged.
That's crazy! Huh, it's really cool.
Now, if you're curious how I've been charging the batteries, I've just been using this 1500 watt power supply here. Now, if you think this seems small, well, it is. It's just that, you know, every experiment with these batteries takes a lot of prep. So in a typical day, I can really only do a few shots. And, you know, that doesn't really discharge them by all that much. So, you know, slowly charging them with this thing is more than adequate. Now, I will say that it feels like I've barely scratched the surface of what's possible with these batteries.
Oh,
It's just
look at the birds in the back, you guys. Look at the birds in the back.
that I spent so much time working on the switch that I didn't have time to get through all the experiments that I wanted to. So
What?
needless to say, there
Was the video supposed to be like 3 hours long?
will be more videos with these batteries in the future. Now, as far as future experiments go, there's a lot I have in mind. I really wanted to melt tungsten underwater, as well as some other underwater experiments.
Yes!
So that's
What underwater?
probably like the lowest hanging fruit of future experiments I can do. Now, I know a lot of people want me to wire all these things in series here, but I really just can't think of that many things I'd do with that kind of arrangement. I mean, yeah, I could draw some just ridiculous arcs, but other than that, I really don't feel that it's worth the effort or risk, really. Now, that being said, I did arrange all of these battery sub-banks in a way where I can fairly easily rewire this bank to 500 volts.
and 500 volts at 20,000 amps, I think there's a lot of fun to be had there. There is a more interesting way to get higher voltage from the batteries though. If I were to stick a big coil in the circuit, that would allow me to get these big currents also at a high voltage. So the idea with that is that you'd build up a bunch of magnetic energy in the coil, which you can then release in an instant in this just enormous pulse.
And he just gave me 400 volts.
So if I wanted to build a railgun with these batteries, that's how I would power it. And even just for like blowing things up, if you stick a big coil between the batteries and the load, it's going to make the explosions a lot more violent.
I'd like to give a special thank you to Greg Lay, Seth Miller, Bert Hickman, as well as all of the members of my Discord for the advice that they gave me throughout this project.
Yay!
I'd also like to thank all of my Patreon and channel members for all of the support. As always, these supporters get early viewing of my videos as well as sneak peeks on all of my projects.
Yeah, double
So yeah,
members.
that's all I have for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and be sure to stay tuned for even crazier experiments in the future. Thanks for watching.
Oh shit! No! No. W video! Oh my god, W video. Very cool, very cool. Holy shit. Wow, we actually, what did we spend, like 3 hours on this? But yeah, anyway, if you enjoyed, like and subscribe, come over to Twitch to watch me live, and obviously subscribe to styropyro. Check out the original video, he has a lot more science stuff like this, and perhaps AndyDesk, if you're interested. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye YouTube, bye bye.